Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors. With Lance. And Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to another episode of Unsung Horrors, podcast where we discuss underseen horror movies, specifically those with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm Erica.
I'm Lance.
We're not doing that this episode, though. It's Junesploitation.
Yes, it's both a good and a bad thing.
Why? It's never a bad thing. Just because we have to sit here for a while.
Yeah, I packed my lunch.
Lance packed a lunch.
I did pack a lunch.
Yeah, I mean, it's beer, but...
I mean, that's what keeps me hydrated and going.
That's
I'm
fine.
a lush.
No, you're not.
I also have my sleeping bag.
Yes.
And I'm going to be
I'm in my PJs already. I'm ready to go.
I have no pants on.
Yeah, of course not.
Keeping it real here.
Yes. Speaking of clothes, I have your very, very early birthday present for you. Yeah. So...
God, it's very, very early.
I know, but well, see, here's the thing:
Okay.
is Brian Sauer? He's put out this huge line of director's shirts. I don't want to spoil like what he's doing in the future, so I won't mention it. Because I asked him about something specifically, and he said, "Yes, I'm doing that." So I was like, "Okay, cool." But he's got tons of director's shirts, directed by Reggie Day, things like that. So I got myself a Sergio Martino shirt.
Yes.
And while I was doing it, I was like, you know what? Why buy one when I can buy two and one of them can be for Lance? And I'm giving it to you this episode because I think this director is very much a Junesploitation director.
Okay.
So
I love it.
Here,
just to say too, there's a couple of designs and shirts that Brian has on his site that I was gonna order myself.
Well, maybe I'm saving you money then because here's one of them.
They're all good.
They are all amazing.
Oh shit! Yes. Yeah, perfect for Junesploitation. William Girdler, 100%. Oh, I like the yellow font on the black.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy very early birthday.
Yeah, now I'm excited about my birthday. And I still have like 5 months.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm on 3 months out, 3.5.
I could, honestly, I could have like bought it and like given it to you then, but I'm so bad about doing that. I'm like, if I buy something for someone, like I need to give it to them right away. So
no, I respect that. That's great. Yeah. I'm just going to stay shirtless though, as well. I'm also shirtless.
That's
so
fine.
I will not put it on.
No. I didn't give it to you so you'd put a shirt on. Like you do you, however you need to be comfortable. That's fine.
Thank you so much. I'll put them next to my Coronitas. Oh, this is exciting. What a way to start Junesploitation.
Indeed. All right. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Junesploitation is a challenge put together by the website / podcast F This Movie. It's 30 days, different categories every single day. Some days, there's multiple free spaces throughout the month, usually 3 or 4, but you have categories like cars and blaxploitation, and then you have like specific actors, like this year's Barbara Steele. And so every day, different category. I love this month because this is a month that we get to go outside of horror for a change and like really start. We do that anyway when we do kind of like side watches, but this is fun. I'm talking too much because this is going to be a very long episode and we really need to jump in because we both have 30 movies to talk about each.
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, let's just jump in. So day one is Roger Corman tribute. I watched Killzone from 1993. This was on Tubi. This is directed by Cirio Santiago. It is a completely forgettable, repetitive Vietnam War actioner. It's got David Carradine in it. He's either half awake or going for it 110%. Like there's just no consistency throughout this whole thing. No in between for him. There's no characters to really latch onto, no interesting conflict. It's like just back and forth shooting for the most part, but it does go for it with a very end. So, I'm not saying it's not worth watching, but it's definitely one that if you put on, you're probably going to be on your phone most of the time. But, pay attention if you get to the end. So it wasn't a great start to the month. It's actually a good thing it wasn't technically my first watch, because I watch these like all kinds of out of order.
Same.
So yeah, Killzone, really just, it's just that generic cover. David Carradine on the cover. There's probably an explosion in the background. He's probably wearing sunglasses. Yep. There you go.
There we
Holding
go.
the gun. There it is.
He's got an what is that? An M16? Like,
I don't know guns.
Yeah, this poster's got me sold.
Don't.
Your review, not so much.
Yeah. Okay. That's, there's something to be said for, Roger Corman knows what he's doing with his posters, but not so much with all the movies. Yeah. But we love him. And I should say that a lot of, like, F This Movie's calendar came out a little late, and I think it's because they were really trying to put it together as being very Corman-centric because of his recent passing, which I definitely appreciate.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every Junesploitation, regardless of if there is a specific Roger Corman, which I think there is.
There has been in the past, like a Roger Corman category.
Or an AIP or something. Yeah. I always fit in a Roger Corman because he's... When you think of Junesploitation, you think Roger Corman.
Yeah, or William Girdler.
Or Fred Williamson.
Yes, which I'm sure you've got.
I do have a Fred Williamson. Of
course.
Little po' boy action.
Of course. All right, what about you for your Roger Corman tribute?
Okay, I have his directorial debut from 1955. Oh. I went with Five Guns West, which I think I started watching on Tubi, but something was off. I think this might have been my first one I watched. And I think I switched over to YouTube.
Okay.
So it's out there, though. Yeah, I had fun with it. It's about 5 convicts who are scheduled to be hanged, but they accept pardons on condition that they join the Confederate Army due to the Army being desperate for men during the last days of the American Civil War. Scumbag convicts, they're kind of, it's in the West, so immediately when they start talking and they start kind of fighting with each other and hounding each other, I was kind of reminded of Orville Wanzer's The Devil's Mistress.
Oh, okay.
That opening scene. Yeah. Obviously, this is 1955. It's not as vulgar as what they're talking about, like in Devil's Mistress. But at the same time, you can tell that they're there just as a forced group, pretty much, kind of doing what they're told to do. And then they end up going to this cabin where a woman and her old uncle live, and they all start kind of conspiring amongst themselves. They're sent by the generals they're given a task to go after a trader and a shipment of, like, money that he stole.
Okay.
So they all start saying, okay, well, I want the money, or they start kind of teaming up. Let's get the money for ourselves. So they start fighting with each other. And then some of the guys start falling for the girl, and it gets real silly, and she ends up kind of falling for one of them. It's just, it's kind of a, very dramatic Western that they kind of throw in there. The performances are fun enough, though. They're all kind of crazy. There's this one scene where, like, the craziest of the convicts he's looking at a fire, and there's a flashback scene of this redheaded woman that he killed in San Antonio. And he's like, oh, I could see her hair in the fire. So I was like, yeah, let's get more of this. This is dark and deep. More Devil's Mistress. But yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of flair. It's Corman's first directorial debut. But I had a good enough time with it.
Okay.
Five Guns West. 5 condemned men who traded a sentence to die for 1,000-to-1 chance to live.
All we have to do is make a hard 4-day ride in about 3 days, cross over the Union lines, hold up a stage escorted by Yankee troops, and then bring some traitor all the way back here for Southern justice. That is quite an order.
Starring John Lund, a man dedicated to a desperate cause, and Dorothy Malone, a girl destined to know all the pleasures and pains of love.
And then day 2. I'm going to jump straight to day 2. Zombies. I went with The Invasion of the Dead from 1973. This is Rene Cardona.
Oh, okay.
Senior. Starring Zovek and Blue Demon.
Oh, fun. Okay.
yeah. Just those two names, like, well, I didn't know much about Zovek.
I know. Yeah, you said a Blue Demon. You had me.
Yeah,
so,
and if you look at the poster too, like it's so many of those movies are great. The Cardona movies, their posters they kind of draw you in immediately. But when you get, like, Santos or Blue Demon in there, you're sold. But yeah, it's about, like, these fireballs that start falling to Earth, and people are sent to investigate, including Blue Demon, who seems to work for the government as some sort of genius spy.
Of course.
He holds the information to anything and everything you could ever want. And then we have Professor Zovek, who I had never heard of before. He pops in and helps some archaeologists determine what cave paintings mean, and they team up and they find out that these fireballs are making the dead come alive as they fly over and like cemeteries and stuff. There's this great scene of it landing next to a cemetery. The dead start rising. They're walking through this kind of foggy, rainy forest and rocky terrain, very reminiscent of like Lamberto Bava's like Demons, like that poster. It really works.
Yeah.
But the character Professor Zovek, who I'd never heard of, he's a badass. He's not only an escape artist, because he's introduced in the movie doing like this Houdini type Egyptian coffin trick to get out of in front of an audience, but he can also read minds, having developed a sixth sense in his training in Egypt. But he's a hero in this. He's fighting zombies. He's literally picking up these men, just kind of exhibiting his sheer strength, because he's a strong guy. Yeah. He's kind of lanky and stuff, but like you can tell he's probably tougher than Blue Demon. But he's throwing these zombies at other zombies, to knock them down. Little domino effect. Blue Demon scenes, though, are just him giving theories and history lessons to others, including talking about Burke and Hare when cadavers start disappearing.
Oh, okay.
And he goes it's like a 5-minute long scene of him talking about the Burke and Hare. And the reason for this is because Zovek was killed during filming of this movie.
Oh.
He did a lot of his own stunts, and he fell from a helicopter. He only made 2 movies. The other I already added to my watch list. But Blue Demon was brought in to film scenes and to pad the runtime. So they don't really have scenes. They don't have scenes together. It's kind of Blue Demon like in this headquarters, just spouting off these like long-winded facts about bullshit that has nothing to do about anything. I want to watch that other movie with Professor Zovek because he's very kind of captivating. Not a good actor by any means. But a lot of fun to watch. I do recommend that one. What's your zombie pick?
So a few of my picks this month, I was filling in blind spots for bigger directors. So I watched Tobe Hooper's Mortuary from 2005. This was on Prime. I put this one off for a long time, and it turns out I wasn't missing anything. I know that like there's people who love this movie, and certain people have written about Tobe Hooper who would defend it, but it's early 2000s. Like you're not going to get me. I'm sorry, you're just not. A lot of people that I follow really like this one on Letterboxd, but for me, it's really just a victim of the time it was made. Because it's got like bad CGI, new metal. Anyway, if this was made in the 70s or early mid 80s with this set and this premise, I forgot her name, Pet Sematary Wife. She's in it. She's a mortician, but like, I think it's supposed to be a horror comedy, but it really just, the comedy does not land because she gets a job as a mortician in this new town. She moves her kids there with her. And it's this rundown house, and the morgue is in the basement, and there's a cemetery attached to the house, and it's in this really like industrial area. So like the setting is really neat, but like there's these moments where she is like fumbling around with like all the like mortician equipment and stuff like that. Like, oh, what's this? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, ma'am, did you go to school to do this? Because it really seems like it's your first fucking day. And I guess it's supposed to be funny. I didn't think it was. It didn't land for me. I don't know. I wanted to like it because it's Tobe Hooper. It has its moments for sure. But like, yeah.
I still have never seen it. So
I don't think you're missing anything.
Didn't realize it had any type of comedy tones to it. So
I don't even know if it was intentional, but it feels like it was supposed to be, but it just doesn't land. And it's not like a full horror comedy. It's not TCM2. It's not that.
Right.
But there's just, especially with her as a mortician and like just kind of being like bumbling with it, like it would make sense. If that was Bruce Campbell, I would be like, okay, I get it. But it's Pet Sematary Wife. And I'm like, you're not funny. Sorry. Anyway, Mortuary 2005, not whatever. Is what it is. Revenge. Moving on. I watched Night Evil Soul. I don't know what year it is because multiple sources have different dates. I did have to download this one. It's in the 80s, 1981 or 1988. So I was sold on this from the description of it because basically it's about a witch who is killed and she sends her cats back for revenge. And I was like, fuck yeah, cat revenge
Yes.
movie. I'm all about it. It's not quite a Bakaneko movie. Kind of, it has elements of that for sure. But this is basically, it's more about like a woman who's possessed by a spirit from a lake who is accused of using witchcraft to lure men away from their wives, and she gets murdered. So the letterbox synopsis or someone's review, I can't remember, says that she unleashes an army of cats for revenge. And that happens in one scene where there's tons of cats. There's flinging cats everywhere. Like you can tell there's people off screen just throwing cats. It's like Night of 1,000 Cats. There are some great cat quote unquote transformation scenes though, which are kind of the highlight. Like when we've talked about like werewolf transformations and even like the cat transformation in
Bloodthirsty Killer.
Like stuff like that is, I think it's a lot of fun. So there's one scene though where it goes from her as a woman to a woman wearing a cat mascot head. And it's fantastic.
Sounds like Hour of the Wolf, like that big, fantastic Mr. Fox.
But it was like giant size on her head. It was so funny. It's fun. I'm sure at the rate that boutique Blu-ray labels are going, this will probably get dug up somewhere and released at some point. I wouldn't say go out of your way to find it to watch because I had to download it. But if it makes its way out there someday, I think it's worth checking out.
Nice. Night Evil Soul.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Okay, day 3, revenge for me. I watched Armed Response from 1986 by Fred Olin Ray. Starring...
he was just a guest on Groovy Doom with Sam. They had They had him on their stream, yeah. Everyone should go check that out.
Yeah, for sure. They're great. But this one stars David Carradine. He's back. I bet his name pops up a few times.
Probably.
This episode. Lee Van Cleef.
Oh.
Yes. Michael Berryman.
Yeah, okay.
And Mako, the wizard in the original Conan movies. I don't know if you remember him. He pops up. He's a recognizable face. Okay, so this is it's about David Goss, who's the lead guy in She, which he's an okay actor, right? He plays a private eye, and he's murdered after unknowingly taking a job for this Yakuza boss. And David Carradine is his father, who is a bartender, and he teams up with his own dad, a drunk retired cop played by Lee Van Cleef, to find out who killed his son and to get revenge on who killed him.
Okay.
The problem with Carradine is he has PTSD and he gets stuck in constant flashbacks from when he was in Vietnam, and he killed a lot of young soldiers.
Maybe this is a sequel to Killzone.
Sounds like it could be. This is 1986. What was Killzone?
93. So never mind.
Maybe this is
prequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
I don't know.
But yeah, then the whole thing apparently involves some weird statue that the Yakuza won. It's a weird storyline. It doesn't really matter. You're just kind of I mean, the main reason I watched it is to watch like a drunk David Carradine and even Lee Van Cleef seems extremely kind of drunk and not caring what he's doing. And for that reason alone, I really enjoyed it. I loved it.
Okay.
Super cheesy. It's like a bad comic book come to life. A lot of, tough guy antics from Carradine and Van Cleef. There's a crazy final battle with grenades and assault rifles, crazy explosions. This kind of felt like what Begos's VFW wanted to be like.
Okay.
It worked with these characters because, Carradine and Lee Van Cleef, they're known for some good roles in action and stuff. And they pulled it off. And with, Fred Olin Ray directing, it just worked a lot better. Dick Miller has a few scenes in this.
Oh.
With Laureen Landon, for Maniac Cop. And they're both fantastic. Spoiler alert, there's major squibs on both of them in their scenes. So it's very fun to watch. There's a corrupt friend played by Ross Hagen, who's totally modeling his character after Jack Death. Tim Thomerson and Trancers. Like it's physically he looks like him, but the way he talks and acts and kind of carries himself. So I immediately fell in love with him. But yeah, a lot of familiar faces kind of pop up in this. Susan Stokey, who's the lead from The Power, one of your favorites, which I'll be talking about later in this episode. Michael Berryman, who I already said earlier, he plays the main villain's right-hand man, and he gives out fortune cookies to his victims. So they'll open one up. There's a scene where a guy opens one up and he says, "You will have a bright future." And he's sitting in his car, and the car explodes. Good stuff.
I get it.
Not great, but it's a lot of fun. So that was my revenge pick.
Okay.
Day 4 is Free Space, our first Free Space. I watched Armed Response from 2017.
Oh, you did it to yourself twice.
I did it. Yeah. I was like, okay, Letterboxd, here's the Armed Response that I had in my watch list with Lee Van Cleef and David Carradine. What's this Armed Response? Oh, it's directed by John Stockwell from Albert Pune's Radioactive Dreams and John Carpenter's Christine. He's Keith Gordon's best friend. I knew it was going to be bad because it's a WWE Studios production.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
And it stars Wesley Snipes. Also, if you look at the poster, it's atrocious. Anne Heche and Seth Rollins, he's a wrestler. He's an active wrestler right now. And he has like this, it's like
fun,
really conniving laugh that he makes sure to do a few times in the movie. But it's a total mess.
Oh my God, you gave this a half star.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hate giving out half stars, but this did not have any redeeming qualities. Like I watched. So the funny story about this one is, I went and visited the in-laws for a week in San Angelo. They don't have a smart TV. We bought them an Apple TV for the living room a while back.
Yeah.
In the guest room, it's this old TV that has like the picture's broken. There's like a line going through the middle.
I got that in my bedroom. TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
And it progressively has gone, the picture's just gotten dark, darker and darker. And, when we got there the first night, I was like, we're going to go get you guys a new TV. And Sarah's, parents are like, yeah, we're planning to do that. But, we didn't get one till the last night we were there.
Oh, okay.
So I watched this on the only night that I had the smart TV. I was like, all right, let me upload let's add Tubi.
Yeah.
Let's watch fucking Armed Response from 2017. It looked great on the TV, but this movie, terrible. That's like the best part of the movie is that I now know I will go back to San Angelo and there'll be a smart TV in the fucking bedroom, in the guest room.
And it's going to have like your Tubi recommendations are all going to be related to this now.
It's all going to be like WWE studio shit.
Yeah.
Like Anne
Played
Heche.
Yourself, Lance.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even, I don't even want to try and talk about what it is because it's frustrating to talk about. I'm going to it's like about some AI military compound that starts making the soldiers hallucinate and have visions of like bad stuff they did in their life. And there's one good soldier who sees what the other bad soldiers did. So they start wanting to kill him. It's
I'm out. You already gave this a half star. There's no way I'm ever going to watch this.
Also, it's produced by Gene Simmons.
Oh God. Wow.
Who pops up as like some inmate with like, she has a fake bald cap on. It's terrible. Tons of drone shots in this shot, which is a big turnoff for me. Like I know establishing shots are cool and stuff, but when I would do some South by screeners, overuse of drone shots it kind of ruins it for me.
Yeah.
It seems like it just looks cheap. Digital gore, CGI, blood. Yeah. Oh, but I'm sorry. This is important. This is important. Yeah, my notes are all over the place, by the way, guys. So I'm going to be jumping all over. 2 child kills.
Oh. Fuck.
A little girl's riding a bike and rolls into like this oncoming semi. It doesn't show it, but it happens. And then a little girl's shot in the back of the head and she pops up like as one of the visions throughout this AI temple thing. Yeah. Add it. Fuck. Armed Response.
I know.
Wesley Snipes, Anne Heche, Seth Rollins. Directed by John Stockwell.
Nobody else watched it.
Jesus Christ.
Only me, because dead kid.
It's terrible. Yeah, I gave it a half star, and I hate giving out half stars.
You do. You're a lover.
I am. I fight for the worst of them, and I could not. There's no way I could have an argument for this one. What was your free space?
I'm going to turn it around here because
please do.
My free space was one of my favorites of the month, and you will love this movie. Cisco Pike from 1972. It's streaming on Prime. It's probably on YouTube as well. I think I'm pretty sure I looked it up. It has a Blu-ray release, but stars introducing Chris Christopherson,
Ooh.
Karen Black, and Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman is a narc, corrupt cop. He forces Cisco, that's Chris Christopherson, to sell 10,000 worth of weed that he stole from that Gene Hackman stole from another criminal, because Christopherson used to deal. He's trying to get out of it. He's trying to get back into music. He used to have this career in music with one of your favorites, Harry Dean Stanton.
Oh, nice.
Who's in it.
Who is a very accomplished musician himself in real life.
Yeah, and both of them. And
right, yeah.
So the theme song in this, like Chris Christopherson did it. It's like, I think it's called like The Pilgrim or something. I'll throw that on like the outro for this episode. But like this movie, it takes place in Venice Beach, and most of the movie is Christopherson just like, nothing really happens in it. He's just kind of going place to place, trying to sell drugs. And every now and then Gene Hackman will pop in and be a dickhead because he's a cop. And then Karen Black will be like, you said you'd quit drugs. And anyway, this movie is just a complete, I hate to say it's such a vibe, but it really is like California 70s vibe, and further enhanced by Chris Christopherson and Karen Black in this. And then when Harry Dean Stanton showed up, I was just like, oh my God, that's movie. Just how could this movie get better? It just did. I love it. And I know if you watch it, you'll fall in love with it too.
Yeah. Immediate watch list.
So then after that was 90s action. I think a lot of people went with some Hong Kong movies, and that was a smart pick. I didn't do that. I picked Time Bomb from 1991. This was on Prime. And, and I did it because of the cast. So it's got Michael Biehn, and he was in some sort of like super soldier program. He's supposed to be dead, but he resurfaces, and like some people who were in that program see him, and they're like, is that so-and-so? Billy Blanks is in this.
Hell yeah.
Robert Culp is in this, and he's in another one of my favorites from the month that I'll talk about later.
I watched one with his son, which I'll talk about later.
Oh, okay. Billy Blank's son or Robert Culp's son?
Robert Culp's son.
Does he show his cock?
No.
Be a better Culp, young man.
Seriously.
Or however old you are now. You're probably older than me, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so many scenes from this film are ripped off from The Terminator. You know, there's...
even like... And Michael Bihn's in it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, there's this shootout in front of a sex film theater that ends up inside of it. That's really great. There's lots of nudity. It was a lot better than I was expecting. Like, I went in with really low expectations on this one. I was like, okay, Michael Biehn, early 90s, Billy Blanks. Like, we'll just do it. You know, this seems like a good Junesploitation movie. And it was pretty entertaining. I think just because I love Terminator and seeing like some of that, I was like, entertained by that element of it, but most of it is being like, he doesn't remember who he used to be, and so he's got people chasing him all of a sudden. Is that what the Bourne movies are about? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
And he figures it out eventually. I don't know. Maybe it's something
I think the first. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend it for just a kind of dumb Sunday afternoon type movie.
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
What about you for 90s action?
Okay, so I picked Judgment Night from 1993.
Oh, is that the Cuba Gooding Jr. and Emilio? Yeah. Okay.
Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Jeremy Piven, and Stephen Dorff, directed by Stephen Hopkins. Peter Green, who's Zed in Pulp Fiction. He plays one of the main villains named Sykes. But the main villain, though, is Dennis Leary. It's very 90s. I'm sure a lot of listeners have watched this before. I missed this one in 1993.
I didn't watch it then. I think I watched it within the last few years, like fairly recently, and I liked it.
Yeah, it's a good little thriller. It's about four friends who haven't hung out in a while, and they take a quick road trip to Chicago in this pimped out RV that Jeremy Piven has. They're going to go watch like a boxing match, and they're stuck in traffic. They take a detour, and they're in this rundown, desolate neighborhood where they witness Dennis Leary and his thugs murder some guy. So the whole movie is them running on foot because their RV explodes. They're running on foot from Dennis Leary and fucking Zed from Pulp Fiction and a few other guys. Very night game, kind of early 90s thriller feel.
Okay.
Has a good atmosphere. I think the camera work is really great. Has kind of like that blue lighting from time to time. definitely of its time. But for this, yeah, the tension, it stayed strong once the execution takes place, like when they see this guy get murdered, it's kind of nonstop and you don't know where it's going. And that kind of surprised me. Some of the guys die, some of them get away. There's a little bit of backstabbing going on. Yeah, this thing had a budget though, too. The sets were amazing, but it's all about the soundtrack. So this was when it's kind of some crazy idea where they team up, quote, rock bands with rappers and stuff. So the soundtrack is like De La Soul with like Teenage Fan Club and Dinosaur Jr., Living Color, Run DMC, Slayer and Ice-T, Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Was that a thing that happened? Holy
Yeah.
shit.
I remember it was a Record Store Day vinyl release,
Oh, wow. Okay.
I feel like before pandemic. But Sonic Youth with Cypress Hill with Pearl Jam, Faith No More, Helmet, and House of Pain. The Faith No More song was kind of good with House of Pain.
Okay.
A lot of it just doesn't work, but it's cool to listen to because it's of its time. It's so 1993.
Yeah.
I think Alvin Silvestri did the original score, which was fine, but it was all about that soundtrack. But yeah, I thought it was a great little thriller. I think I gave it 3.5 stars.
Nice.
Glad I have another Stephen Hopkins directed movie on my list, which we'll get to later.
Okay.
But we are going to Paul Naschy now for day 6. Dr. Jekyll versus the Werewolf from 1972. I had never seen this one. I was about to for the Butterfly for Each Corpse episode because it's directed by Leon. Dragonfly for Each Corpse. Directed by Leon Klimovsky. Written by and starring Paul Naschy in multiple roles. Of course, he's the Valdemar Wolfman. Waldemar, how do you say it? Valdemar?
Valdemar.
It's
Daninsky.
and he plays the Mr. Hyde. But it's about this married couple who travel from England to Transylvania to visit the graves of the husband's dead parents. And there the husband is murdered by some carjackers. And Naschy pops up and saves the wife, giving her a place to stay in the castle. The whole town knows he's this werewolf. He's this monster. So they head to his place to kill him. And they kind of both run off and leave to London, where the wife tells her close friend, Dr. Henry Jekyll, that Valdemar needs help to, hopefully defeat this curse. And Dr. Jekyll says, "Oh, I got my grandfather's formula," which I think will work. He thinks that if he turns Paul Naschy's character, Valdemar, into Hyde, that Hyde will fight off the transformation of the werewolf.
Okay.
And that persona will be strong enough to cure him. Yeah, and obviously you'll have to watch it to find out if you haven't already seen it. But it's fine. I think Naschy looks great as the Hyde when he turns into Hyde, kind of like a Danny DeVito from The Penguin, or Danny DeVito as a Penguin from Batman Returns. But it has an amazing score from Anton Garcia Abril, who did all the music for the Blind Dead films and a lot of other Klimovsky films. But yeah, I'm glad I checked this one off. I thought it was fine. The Naschy movies for me they sound better in summaries and synopses than execution.
Yeah.
Like so many ideas. I'm like, Jesus, this is genius, but you just can't really pull it off.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. I think I gave it 3 stars.
They're always fun, I think.
They are.
Yeah.
And he's such a burly man.
He is.
He's the Belushi. He's got that Belushi look.
He does. So I was supposed to watch The Beast Carnival. John said he had this one downloaded, and Jake even offered to borrow the Blu-ray. And I was like, no, John's got it downloaded. And every day I'd be like, not every day, but like at least 5 times last month. I was like, John, The Beast Carnival, are we going to watch it? Because he wanted to watch it too. And like his schedule just changed. Anyway, I'm rambling. We did not watch The Beast Carnival because John forgot to find it for me, or he couldn't find it. He had it downloaded. He didn't remember which flash drive or hard drive he had it on. Anyway, so I switched it on the very last day of the month. This was one of the last movies I watched for Junesploitation.
Oh, you're holding out.
I was holding out. I was waiting. I was like, John, are we going to fucking watch this movie or not? And then I go, I'm tired. I'm like, fine. So, Werewolf in the Yeti. 1975. A good old Tubi had plenty of Naschy movies for me to pick from. I saw that you'd seen this one too.
Yeah.
It was basically Naschy goes squatch hunting in Kathmandu. And don't at me and say like Yetis are different than Squatches. They're the same fucking thing. Yeah, Nashi again is playing Valdemar Daninsky. He goes off to find a path with one other person. He ends up alone in some cave on a full moon where there's some like demon vampire woman who turns him into a werewolf. It's mostly about the, exploring group that Nashi came with in the cave demon women. Because there's pictures of the Yeti, and so they're like, oh, we're gonna go and we'll find the Yeti or whatever. And I'm like, are we gonna get to the Yeti at any point? And you finally do in like the last 5 minutes. You get this is what I was waiting for. I was like, he's got to be a wolf and he's gonna fight the Yeti. When am I gonna get that? And they finally do, and it's like a hugging match. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's really lacking in the Yeti-ness in a movie with Yeti in the title, but
I remember when I watched it, I completely forgot that the Yeti was even a part of the movie, and he pops up, and I'm like, oh shit, already kind of checked out.
Yeah, I was too. I think you gave it 2.5. I gave it the same. I mean, it's fine, but at the same time, I was like, don't name your movie Werewolf and the Yeti if 98% of your movie does not have a Yeti in it. Please and thank you.
Yeah, it looks like it also goes by Night of the Howling Beast.
But yeah, that's the title on Letterboxd. But
on Tubi, it was the Yeti one.
Yeah, but anyway, it was Nashi. Nashi's always fun. So moving on to the next category, which is buddy cops. This is another one of my favorites from the month.
Oh, wow.
Hickey and Boggs from 1972.
In a seedy, rundown office in Los Angeles, a pair of businessmen discuss the opposition.
I know these guys better than I know you. Pull a gun, you gotta be ready to kill somebody.
Well, what else we got to do?
Bill Cosby is Hickey, and Robert Culp is Boggs. Hickey and Boggs, a pair of played-out private eyes who'd have to reach up to touch bottom. They're not cool, slick heroes. They're worn, tough men, and that's what makes them so dangerous. When they come up against professionals, they hold their .44 Magnums in both hands and keep shooting until they get something. Anything. Hickey and Boggs. Rated PG. Cosby, Culp, Hickey and Boggs. They'll knock you out of your seat.
This was on Tubi. Directed by Robert Culp. Written by Walter Hill. And stars Robert Culp and Bill Cosby as Hickey and Boggs.
What?
They are sort of retired private detective partners. They get hired to track down a woman, but they get entangled with some criminals searching for the same woman who's connected to a heist and the theft of the money from the criminals. What's great about them is that they're not good cops, like as people. I mean, not as in like they're good at their jobs, like they know like what they're doing, but they're not good people.
Right.
I think it's also really progressive for its time because Culp's character is gay, and then you have Bill Cosby in the role as well. And I know Bill Cosby, I know what's going on with that now, but this is 1972. I can talk about him in that context. So it's extremely bleak. It has this very cynical energy throughout it. The kills are really brutal and hard hitting. Yeah, it's just this one fucking hits hard, and it's a fucking banger.
It's funny. Is it funny or not?
No.
Not really. Okay, there's no comedy in this buddy cop.
No, this is not like funny Bill Cosby. This one's dark. Like, I mean, they have jokes with each other.
I mean, not funny Bill Cosby's scary.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But no, it's just like the tone is like really not what you would expect. And I know like that doesn't really fit with like the buddy cop category, but I mean, that's what they were. And that's what it works, I'm counting it. So
totally.
Highly, highly recommend this one. Another one of my favorites from the month.
Another watch list going on. Jeez, you're going to add so many to my watch list, Erica.
It's all front loaded. Don't worry. It's all downhill.
Okay. Mine's all over the place, including my buddy cop pick. I went with Crime Busters, 1977, directed by Enzo Barboni. I thought it was going to be a banger. It stars, it's a Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill jam.
It looked fun.
It does. I mean, so there are these out of work dock workers who randomly meet each other one day. And then they have this conversation. They decide to go ahead and rob what they think is a convenience store location. It's kind of like a shopping mall strip area. But they accidentally enter a police station recruitment office and sign up and become police officers. So they go through basic training, the whole shenanigans, falling asleep in class, reading comic books. But they ultimately they need cops, very police academy kind of, and they become cops. They pass training, boot camp. They immediately destroy all the cop cars when they're on the road, they're on patrol, and they try to solve this murder case that they give in this very bumbling way. Then they try to start being purposefully kicked off of the force, but the commissioner sees everything they do as like amazing work and like this these tactics that he's never seen. And it's pretty funny. It's definitely no like Trinity or anything like that. The premise is better than the actual execution.
Sure.
It gets kind of taxing. I mean, it spends the first 15 minutes just kind of recycling the same joke over and over again, like when the characters are first introduced. And it does that quite a bit on other jokes and scenes. And it's a long runtime, too. It's almost 2 hours long. All the Spencer Hill comedies, they're very slapstick, but this one is like full-on cartoon mode, which works for, like people on Letterboxd some of the people I follow really love this. To me, it just got a little bit annoying.
Okay.
And it could be completely based on the mood you're in, too.
Sure.
But 2 hours of feeling this, I was like, yeah, it almost had the same kind of slapstick comedy and characters as like I said, Police Academy, which can sometimes get annoying, or like Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hyde. Like it just didn't land for me. But Laura Gesmer does show up about an hour in.
Okay.
And she plays Susie Lee from Hong Kong, and Terrence Hill understandably falls for her. And she plays the niece of the guy who's murdered in the case that they're covering. So Terrence Hill really wants to kind of solve the case. But it does have a super catchy theme, this continuous original score, this melody it sounds like something from a cartoon. It's kind of catchy.
Yeah.
And as soon as it started, like in the very beginning, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like already humming it. But it plays literally like 50 times throughout the movie.
I think that seems to be a running thing, because that same thing happened last year when I watched Watch Out, We're Mad with the song, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then like the 10th time I was like, kill me.
That's what, and it's the great, I love it's what is it, Maurizio and Guido De Angelis, who they've done so many great scores. Like some of them were my favorite, like Torso and Raiders of
Lance, you didn't say it right.
Torso.
Thank you.
Torso.
But yeah, this one just didn't land for me. I think I gave it 2.5. I don't think I'd watch it again. There's so many other Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill movies I haven't watched. Yeah. So I'll get to those before you've given this
that
a shot.
That should be a category next year.
Yeah.
Patrick.
That's a good one. Okay, day 8. Kaiju.
Yes.
I went with Atragon. Is that how you say it? Atragon.
Yeah. Either one. I watched this too for something else.
But then it's all like, I think in there, don't they call him like a Tarragon or something? They say it completely different in the movie, but it's from 1963.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What did you watch it for? AIP?
Day 21 AIP.
Ishiro Honda. And it was okay. I think we both gave it 2.5 stars.
Yeah, it's okay. The reporter dubbing is absurd.
Yeah.
The sub implodes. And honestly, it's only a good thing if there's billionaires on board. Like, I don't want to see those guys.
That was one of the best scenes in this thing, when the pressure from the submarine.
Yeah.
The miniatures are great in this, mainly like ships and
yeah. The very end with the dragon, I was like, okay, this is what I'm here for. This is great.
Yeah, it's so goofy though. It's like a eel horse looking thing, and it doesn't even really put up a fight. It's very weak.
It looks like a Chinese dragon that's kind of like floating through the sky kind of thing. And
Monda was his name, I think.
Yeah.
Or its name. But yeah, I thought that the opening, though, the cold open was great. It's where those guys are filming that woman at the little like the dock, and then the guy comes out of the water, and you don't know if are they filming this? Is this part of the photo shoot? And then like a car just drives off into the water. There's a lot going on. I'm like, this is fucking great. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it becomes some weird like
there's
father-daughter reunion, like about
underwater thing. Yeah,
the Mu Empire.
Mu Empire is taking it. We're doing a great job explaining this movie.
It's an old World War II admiral working on submarines, and the Mu Empire, who apparently ruled planet Earth like 10,000 years ago
Yeah,
are living
they're-
under the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
And they want to come back up to rule Earth.
Right.
But like the admiral is taking care of an old submarine captain's daughter who everybody thought the father died in World War II, and he ends up working with the Mu Empire. It became convoluted.
It very much so, yeah. The dubbing probably didn't help either, and yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah, that's what I gave it. So what was your kaiju?
My kaiju was Gorgo from 1961. This has a Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome. I think this was Adam's pick too for kaiju. This is basically a British/Irish Godzilla. Some fishermen capture Gorgo, like Gorgon. That was where it got its name from. And they sell it to a circus run by a guy named, you ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Dorkin. So what they don't know is that this is the baby Gorgo, and Mama's on her way to come rescue him.
Oh, I like it.
It's fine. It's cute. It's not likely something I'll ever rewatch, but it checks most of the kaiju boxes, I guess. You know, you can tell like they had one suit for baby kaiju and or baby Gorgo and mama Gorgo, because like the way when they spoiler, skip ahead if you don't want to know the end of Gorgo, when Mama rescues him and they're walking back to the ocean, you can tell like the way that the screen is that it's like they're not in the same frame. It's like, oh, they had one suit.
That's cute.
I mean, yeah, it's cute. It's got a bunch of extras on it that I haven't watched yet. So, and I'll check all that stuff out, but I don't know if I'll ever rewatch the movie.
Dorkin.
Dorkin.
Every time I hear that word, I think of in heavy metal. I think John Candy did the voice. He's like, I can't be walking around with my dork hanging out.
Yeah.
Love it. Dorkin.
All right. And then after that was Kung Fu, day 9. And I watched Dance of the Drunken Mantis, a.k.a. The Other Drunken Master 2. This is from 1979. It's on Tubi. It's Simon Yen's last film before he died. He's the drunken master / beggar Sue. But this time his student is his ex-wife or still current wife. It was a little unclear. Adopted son, Foggy, not Jackie Chan. So Jackie Chan's not in this, but it is still technically sort of a drunken master film. Loses some points, but the rest of the cast makes up for it because Foggy's... I mean, Jackie Chan's not my favorite martial artist. That's Sammo Hung, but Jackie Chan like has a lot of personality and character in those films. And this guy, he's fine. It has lots of great fights and choreography. Rubber Legs is a villain, and he's combined the drunken style with Mantis. And so it's really fun when he's got like the Mantis arms out, but he's like also like doing drunken style. So it's fun. I definitely recommend it. I had a good time with it.
I have Drunken Tai Chi.
Hey,
from the same director as Dance of the
We're
Drunk
on
Mantis.
theme here. You brought your Coronitas for a reason.
Coronitas. Yeah, this one's from 1984. This is actually Donnie Yen's first film credit. And, you know, obviously the drunken martial arts movie, Jackie Chan was, you know, he was supposed to play this part, but he was making a film with Sammo Hung at that time.
Oh.
So the director Yoon recruited Donnie Yen for his first film role, and he kind of takes off with it. I mean, he's an immediate star. Like, and watching him, and I've seen him in other stuff, like all the other movies, SBI and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's about it's a wealthy father who's humiliated when these two young kids beat up his only son. So he hires a hitman who reminded me of the bearded guy from Raising Arizona. Think that guy, like the motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
He hires him to kill these kids who beat up his son. So the hitman murders the father and one son, and the other son is Donnie Yen, who he's off unknowingly saving the son of the hitman. Okay. So it's weird. It becomes like, you know, should I or should I not be angry at him? And and then later Yen meets up with his uncle, who's this funny puppeteer, and his auntie, who is called There's Always One, fatty.
Of course.
And they both teach him Tai Chi, which he uses ultimately, to win his final fight against the hitman. Obviously, with kind of what you expect from these drunken titled martial arts Hong Kong films, very slapstick comedy. But this one, obviously has great choreography, great fight scenes. This one had a little bit of emotional investment for me. And the characters, they're quickly established. You're introduced to them really quick, but they're also happy and joyful. They're also full of life. So when Donnie Yen's father and his brother are murdered, I kind of felt that. I was like, yeah, I'm rooting for you, Donnie Yen. And he steals the show. Like I said, it's really good. It's just a good time. I think it's totally worth a watch. The English dub on Tubi is a little, it makes it funnier than it probably is. But also the poster currently on Letterboxd, it's like a 2002 picture of Donnie Yen. Like it looks nothing like the film. This is like it feels very early 80s and, kind of what you expect from these type of drunken martial art films. But yeah, I recommend it. Drunken Tai Chi, 1984. Right. Then we're going to day 10. Is it me? Is it me again?
Yeah.
Sharksploitation. I went with Mako, The Jaws of Death.
I love this movie.
I had never seen it. 1976. William Griffey. Is that how you say his name?
I think it's Griffey.
Griffey?
Yeah.
William Griffey. And then starring Richard Jekyll.
Now, enter an underwater world of terror and suspense as you face the jaws of death. Here is the story of a man determined to stop the killing of sharks.
You didn't catch this shark. Sure I did.
Alone, he dares defend man's most dreaded enemy, destroying all who defied his warnings.
Well, they can't go ahead and just kill all the sharks because they don't understand them. Now, can they? Then put a bounty on them.
In a moment of danger, deadly sharks once saved his life. Now he lives and kills as one of them. Blood brother in a mysterious shark cult.
You don't have to be afraid of any shark when you're with me.
So the opening credits, I knew I was going to love it right away because it's like the producers wish to thank the stuntmen and divers who risked their lives filming the underwater scenes. Mm-hmm. So no cages are used in this. But Jekyll plays Sonny, a man who talks to sharks and he can understand them.
He's got a psychic connection with them, folks.
He does.
Or a spiritual, maybe, connection.
Yeah, he was given some sort of medallion from like a tribesman that made him part of the shark tribe. Mm-hmm. And in one scene, he tells, I forgot if he's speaking to like the sharks or if he's speaking to that weird kind of love interest. He says, I can't help it if I was born a man. I love this guy. But yeah, he works with a professor who's like hanging around and he's saying that the government are thinking about putting a bounty on sharks and only he can help, but the professor screws him over and Jekyll starts kind of killing everybody that is trying to fuck over sharks.
Yeah.
Has a great opening of Jekyll, who looks like a young, buff John Voight in this to me.
He does, yeah.
But he's underwater. This is like the opening scene. There's some shark fishermen and he cuts the line underwater. The fishermen are like, what the fuck? He slowly comes out of the water onto the boat and just slaughters them both. Like,
hell yeah.
I loved it. Definitely felt like kind of like a made for TV feel with some good violence, but it was also funny. I noticed a lot of the characters in this are also in Super Fuzz, which is a comedy that Corbucci filmed.
Okay.
In Griffey's home state, Florida. So a lot of like the smaller role characters that popped up, they're also in Super Fuzz.
Okay.
But Odd Job from James Bond is in it. He plays like this asshole who makes fun of Sonny all the time. And he's trying to hunt sharks and rape women. He's just with his drunk buddy. He was really gross. Spoiler alert, Sonny kills them and hangs them up like dead sharks. Like, it's a great movie. I enjoyed this one a lot.
It's fun. It's no, plastic bag jellyfish, but, it's...
It isn't. I mean, it's... But yeah, I could watch William Griffey all day.
I like his stuff.
Me too.
So initially, I really wanted to watch the new shark movie that's on Netflix, the Under Paris one, but the one night I made it to my friend's house who has Netflix, like it just... I couldn't like... sneak that in and be like, hey, so is it cool if I watch this shark movie on Netflix? Like, I know I came over to like have dinner and like catch up and stuff. So I couldn't quite work that in. So I ended up watching something that's probably much more fitting for this month because it was Roger Corman produced, and he actually has a speaking role in the film. He plays a scientist in it.
Nice.
So I watched Dino Shark from 2010.
Ooh.
The best part about this movie is the fact that Roger Corman was in it, because it was honestly just nice to hear his voice again. And I know I can watch like any random shit on YouTube and just type Roger Corman and listen to it. But, watching a movie, having him pop up, I didn't know he was in it. I just knew like he had produced it. But, overall, the movie honks. It's icebergs melt. This is 2010 CGI too. So
yes.
It releases these tadpoles, these CG tadpoles that turn into giant dino sharks that eat people, and budget Matthew Lillard has to kill it. I will say that because it's 2010, there is a mix of CGI and practical effects, although the latter is very, very limited. But I am convinced that they used the dinosaur head from Carnosaur for this, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if you look at it when there's like a surface shot of the shark chomping down on someone, it looks like Carnosaur.
What day is this? Yeah, my New Horizon pick actually is a Corman production that I'm going to talk about, and they reused the set from Carnosaur.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, see, I'm pretty convinced it was the Carnosaur head for the shark, and that's why like he was like, "Oh, Dino Shark, I could use the Carnosaur head in that."
That's a good Roger Corman.
I tried. Anyway, Dino Shark's not very good, but if you want to see Roger Corman and the Carnosaur head, he's in it.
Nice.
It's on Tubi. Then we got Italian horror. This is another blind spot for me from this director, a Dario Argento film.
Ooh.
I watched Do You Like Hitchcock from 2005. I have
Lucky.
a DVD in this like steelbook pack that has like 5 of his movies. One of them's Card Player. One of them's this one. I think Tenebre's on there randomly, and something else. So I've finally seen Do You Like Hitchcock? And, late Argento strikes again. This one centers around a college student who frequents a video store, and you guessed it, he likes Hitchcock.
Sold.
So, of course, it's a murder. It's a murder mystery. It incorporates elements or nods to a lot of Hitchcock films. You'll see Strangers on a Train, Marnie, Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, tons of stuff. So, if you like Hitchcock,
I do. I've never seen this.
You'd probably be more forgiving than I was to it, because I'm just like stuck on. This is not. I just can't latch on to later Argento. I have to try to treat it like it's something different than his earlier stuff, but I can't get on board with it. And I will say this, it is better than Dracula 3D.
Oh, I think I gave that one 2.5 stars.
So you would probably give this one 3. Oh, there's one moment in it that was really funny. So it's a scene in the video store, and John watched this with me. And he said this was the least believable thing that he'd ever seen in a film. There's 2 model pretty women arguing over who could rent Strangers on a Train. And I was like, that's
fake.
Yeah.
That's not true. There could be.
There very well could be, but I think it just in a movie.
Not at that time. Not in the early notes.
Yeah. There's this like scooter escape scene that's supposed to be tension filled, but it's just hilariously bad because he keeps falling off of his scooter. And so it's like trying to do the same. I don't know if it's trying to do the same joke again. And it's like, just get up and fucking go. This isn't funny. Anyway, it's hard because, so, like in Deep Red, and, you have like a strong female lead and then a male lead he's not a wimp, but he's definitely like, he can get shit done and figure stuff out, but he's not like this strong male take charge type lead.
Right.
This guy is just a straight up fucking wimp, where you're just like, how are you even like solving anything? You're just like, I can't root for him. So I think that was a big problem too, is like, you can't really latch on to the protagonist either.
And he likes Hitchcock.
Yes.
So he should have some sort of like knowledge of twists and turns. He should, yeah.
He's figuring stuff out, but like as his personality is so unlikable that it's like, I'm like, yeah, fine. You're figuring it out eventually, but you're also peeping Tom and it's kind of gross. So,
Well, that's from Rear Window.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I get it.
I know, but
Rear Window's my favorite movie.
I know it is.
I've seen everybody that's listening sleep in their bed.
Like I said, it's still better than Dracula 3D. I think Card Player I might like a little bit more than this one.
I've never seen Card Player.
You can rent not rent. You can
for a small fee.
You can borrow my Steelbook if you want. That's got both of those in it. If you would like to fill those Argento blanks yourself.
Yeah, I need to at some point. Maybe not. Maybe not now.
Yeah. What about you for Italian horror?
This was a blind spot. Baba Yaga, Baby Yaga.
Yeah.
The Witch, directed by Corrado Farina. I had never seen this. It had been in my watch list for many, many a year. Based on a comic series from the Italian artist Guido Crepa, which it's pretty much about a young, like, beautiful photographer who meets and falls under the spell of a witch, played by Carol Baker.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just fine.
Yeah, I don't love it. I like it a lot. George Eastman being in it's a huge bonus.
He was
for
my
me.
favorite. Yeah. He's kind of the boyfriend that doesn't believe the photographer at first.
Yeah.
His scenes were my favorite, especially when they make it into the house together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt like the lead, what is her name? Isabel Deduna? I don't know. In the Valentina role, she was pretty lifeless to me. I didn't find her interesting at all.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go opposite Carol Baker, you gotta bring some energy.
Well, Carol Baker looks great as always, but she's just not in it very much either, and that kind of turned me off as well. It's mainly this Valentina character, but I mean, it's artsy. I think it's really great. It's kind of this artsy Euro trash, if you will. But a lot of the scenes I thought were super unique. Learning that it was based, I didn't know it was based on an old black and white comic book. And there's this sex scene that's shot, and it's made to look like panels, like it's just kind of frozen shots.
Right. Yeah.
And there's also another shot, I think, where she's photographing fashion models. But the sex scene was really weird. Like, it was cool. It looked like drawn panels, like almost like storyboards come to life. And I really like that. I thought the music held my attention more than most of the performances too. I was like sold on what I was listening to. Mm-hmm. Annette, that creepy doll that comes to life, was cool. That's very good. Yes, more of that.
More than Annabelle, yes.
Yes. They did have a good darkroom scene. I appreciate that very much. But I thought the end was just kind of I also read that the producers butchered the director's vision, scrapping a ton of his footage and editing it while he was away on vacation. He tried to come back to salvage it, but they had like totally destroyed most of the footage.
Yeah.
So it wasn't what he wanted, but in the end, it kind of reminded me of Giulio Questi's Death Laid an Egg and how it was edited and put together in kind of like an artsy way, where I didn't feel a whole lot for the characters, but cared more about kind of the presentation of it.
Yeah.
Feels like a 2.5-star movie with 3.5-star visuals is what my note said. I think I gave it 3 stars, right down the middle. Okay. Day 12, New World. I went with Torment, 1986. Everybody go listen to that episode. Amazing performances, 100% worth the time.
So yeah, both watch Torment, love it, listen to the episode, check out the New World Pictures podcast. They have an interview with the editors. It's a good complimentary feature to our episode.
It is.
All right, then the next day is Ozploitation. This was my biggest letdown of the month.
Ooh.
Because it's got Sam Elliott in it. And I was like, fuck yeah, Sam Elliott in the Outback going around just being a cool motherfucker. This is going to be great. It's okay. So The Blue Lightning, 1986. I watched this on YouTube. The Blue Lightning is the name of an opal. There's some like opal mining going on down under. Sam Elliott's hired to go down to get this big opal that this other guy was that he paid for, but the other guy didn't send it to him. The other guy being Robert Culp.
There we go.
That's my guy this episode.
Penis?
No penis.
Cool.
But he opens doing his best Irish accent and killing a guy who he's strung up on a tree. And like he was originally just going to leave him out there to die. And the other guy's like, that's fucked up. And he's like, okay. And the other guy's like going to go let him down. And Robert Culp just shoots him. So we know he's the bad guy.
Probably not better than his penis, but it sounds good.
Yeah. So then we go, that all happens in Australia. Then we go to San Francisco where Sam lives on a boat and we're introduced to his character because he's playing the saxophone on a boat. And he needs to pour some devil's honey on that thing and play me a solo. If you know what I mean.
Right away, I'm getting Romance in the Stone vibes going on here. Like living on a boat after a blue lightning. You said it was
opal,
an opal. Yeah,
a rock. Yeah. I guess so. This is what 86. So
84 was Romance in the Stone.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it's that. That makes sense. Goes to so he gets hired to go down to Australia. He goes. There's this plane chase. There's a bunch of one-liners from him that aren't very good, but I'll listen to him say anything. I don't care.
He delivers them.
There's this one. So Opal Ridge is the name of the town where like the mine shaft is, or the mining company is based out of, and it's this one street town, right? So kind of like a Western, dirt road, and you just got this side of the road and this side of the road, and it's got a few stores. Of all the types of stores that they would have there, I know it's 1986, but they have a video store there.
What?
In Opal Ridge, somewhere, Australia.
Respect.
So I'm like, are we going to have a scene in there? No scene in the video store, unfortunately.
It's a dirt road?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So about 40 or 50 minutes in, Elliot's character gets shot and the movie just hits a wall. Like he doesn't die, but he is recouping and he's like figuring out his next move. And like that whole time where he's doing that is just drags.
Yeah.
So that middle part just didn't really help it. The ending is a little unsatisfying, I guess. There's supposed to be a sort of romance with this woman, but she's actually married. So it's kind of weird. And I don't know. It's very average and forgettable, which is unfortunate. But, I do have a new folder in my fantasy file cabinet with Sam Elliott and his saxophone. So I got that,
That should be on the poster.
Him playing a saxophone?
Yeah,
Hell yeah, it should.
Just that.
Yeah. What about you for Exploitation?
Okay, so this is my other Stephen Hopkins who did Judgment Night, who directed it. Mm-hmm. This is called Dangerous Game from 1988. I was actually planning to pick this for an episode. I went with Torment.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to watch this. I'd read good things about it. I kind of skipped over it. But it's fun. The letterbox summary is great, which I'm going to read and kind of paraphrase a little bit. An insane cop named Murphy hunts down 5 students in a shopping mall after closing time. His life is ruined as he was dishonorably discharged from the police force because of these kids. Armed with a Rambo knife and a crossbow, he initially only wants to scare them off, but when he accidentally kills one of the boys, there is no turning back. The witnesses to the murder must be eliminated. So begins a relentless hunt through the mall at night.
Oh, this could still be an episode. It's 500 views? 400 views.
Yeah, it's a great premise. Overall, I thought it could have been handled a little bit better. Okay. There's a lot of padding. If you cut down some of the padding, it spends a lot of time on the buildup of establishing the kids' relationships and how they're friends and what they should be doing, and you should be going to college and all sorts of stuff like that. A little long-winded, but once they settle into the mall, and then Murphy, the fucking crazy cop, has his scenes. It's like, yeah, this would be fun to cover. Okay. He's the star. His scenes of him losing his mind are so entertaining. There's a Rambo montage scene pretty much in the mall where he's kind of gearing up, putting in his, he's sliding the knife into place, double tying his combat boots. Mm-hmm. You can just kind of smell the boner on this cop as he's hunting these helpless teenagers. Yeah.
MPLS Matt, he gave it 3.5, and his review mentions that there's some Christmas trees in other directions. So it's a Christmas movie. And so I'm automatically thinking of Dial Code Santa Claus as a double feature for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though it's totally different premise. You said Rambo and Christmas.
Yeah,
and
no, there is.
That's where my brain automatically went.
Yeah, because they're picking up weapons throughout the mall and stuff. It's not really, Christmas isn't really hinted, but yeah, throughout the mall there are set up decorations. And there is this one scene where Murphy, the crazy cop's alone in his apartment after he just was fired from the force because of these kids. He ended up like chasing the kids, pulled them over, and he wanted to like kind of destroy them. And all these cops show up and they're like, what the hell are you doing? So he loses his mind. He's in his apartment alone and he's like, there's a roach on the wall. So he squashes it with his hand. He just like looks at it. And then the camera kind of pans over and you're looking at like on his wall, there's a picture of Jesus. And then it kind of pans down, and then there's this magazine of Soldiers of Fortune, which is like a gun magazine. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of sets up to me all these like religious elements, like that. It feels like this is a precursor, like for this guy to start losing his mind.
Sure.
This is a crazy person here.
Okay.
And he does. And there is one review, I don't know if you saw it on Letterboxd, but it just simply says, "G'day cab," like a cab, but it's Austrian. Perfect. Okay. Whoever you are. I didn't write your name down, but yeah, Dangerous Game is a lot of fun.
Okay.
I think more people probably enjoyed it more than I did, but yeah, I'd give it another shot.
Okay.
Is me again?
Mm-hmm. Beach.
Okay. Beach. Baywatch, Panic at Malibu Pier. 1989. I know I had Revenge of the Nerds too.
Yeah, because I made the promo trailer very early in the month.
And it's perfect. It's a perfect intro too, by the way. We're back.
I know. So, you know who does the best Robert Carradine laugh?
Who's that?
When that? John.
Really?
Yeah.
Get him in here.
He's at work.
Yeah, I was going to watch that. I mean, as soon as I put it on, I was like, what am I doing? I've seen this before. Like,
okay.
I wanted all first time watches. For some reason, I didn't think I had seen it, but yeah, I mean, it just flooded right back. And I kept watching it, but I went with Baywatch, Panic at Malibu Pier. And let me tell you something, I am very glad I did. This is directed by Richard Compton, who did Macon County Line.
So is this a movie or is this like the pilot movie?
It's a pilot. Yeah, I read about it. Apparently, it's the very first Baywatch anything. It's kind of the pilot episode, but it runs over 90 minutes.
Okay.
And there's nudity in this.
Oh.
So I don't know if that was added to maybe they had extra scenes. If it failed, they would have released it as a movie.
Okay. Well, maybe it ran that way in Europe because,
yes,
they're okay with the nipples.
And Hasselhoff. And this is...
Wait, does he show his wang?
He does. No, he doesn't.
Why'd you... Rude.
You guys should have seen her, man. She was like so happy for a second.
Yeah,
I've never seen her do that.
When like...
No, there's just boobs. There's like fashion photo shoots on the beach, and there's like dudes like up in condos, and they have binoculars. It's real tacky, and they're like looking at. Oh yeah, check it out.
Wait, was something in Baywatch was tacky?
Believe it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this is Machen Amick. Is that how you say her name? Machen Amick.
You should know.
Yeah, it's Machen Amick. From she's Shelley Johnson from Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
This is her first quote movie. It's a TV movie, but this is her first film role.
Okay.
She was actually filming this because this is 89 while she was also filming Twin Peaks. So she looks great. She's Shelley Johnson. But she plays like this badass kind of punk teenager who smokes cigarettes on the beach while wearing like baggy long sleeve clothes and just not giving a shit. Real tough. Listening to her Walkman. But she's keying cars and shit. And she has this huge fucking fanny pack that's hilarious. It's the biggest fanny pack you will ever see in your life. Her mom is Veronica Cartwright, which I don't think she was credited, but that's Lambert from Alien.
Yeah.
She has a scene or two.
Okay.
Anyways, Amick becomes obsessed with this married lifeguard who saves her. She falls off the pier or something, and he rescues her. And she finds out he's married, so she starts fucking with his wife, trying to kill her and stuff. Let's just say that fanny pack is big enough to hold a big-ass Rambo knife. Right?
Okay.
And that's kind of the main plot here. You know, I've never watched an episode of Baywatch before, ever.
Really?
Never watched them.
Okay.
I mean, as a kid, I'd see, the commercials and stuff. This predates Pamela Anderson. She wasn't on the show.
Yeah.
The Hoff's in there. With the title, I thought there'd be like, Panic at Malibu Pier. I thought like Shark Attack or maybe some sort of crazy tsunami or flooding or something. Not just some like weird love triangle that seemed to be the main plot. And when it started, it was just kind of like an episode. It's people like getting caught in the riptide. It's a bunch of lifeguards fighting with each other in Hasselhoff. There's just a bunch of like little small things happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then the panic happens at the end, which is this fishing boat explodes and Hasselhoff's 13-year-old son and Richard Jekyll are on the boat.
Oh, wait, his son's Hobie, right?
Hobie, yeah. You remember that?
I used to watch Baywatch.
Holy shit. Yeah, as soon as he said, like, hey, Hobie, come here. I'm like, wait, what did he say? His son's name's Hobie?
It's terrible.
His son's name's Dorkin? What the fuck? But yeah, Richard Jekyll plays like this aging lifeguard, and spoiler alert, he dies at the end.
Oh.
His character's name is Al in this, but when I was like looking at IMDb, probably for Mako, I saw that his last acting gig was a recurring character on Baywatch for 28 episodes from 1992 to 1994. So he must have been some other new character that popped up.
Probably. I don't remember.
Yeah. So he has this 13-year-old son named Hobie. His ex-wife takes him for the summer while Hasselhoff becomes lieutenant on beach patrol. And he has to like kind of dress as a cop, and he hates it because, quote, I hate wearing socks. It's good stuff. And then like there's this new group of lifeguards coming in, and he has to kind of like wrangle them. It's just terrible. But I had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
Like I wanted it to be like 4 hours long. It was embarrassing. Also, the music was kind of cool for it. Arthur B. Rubinstein, who did War Games, Nick of Time, Blue Thunder. Terrible. But yeah, I just liked it. Everything just worked for me. If I watched this probably and I'd never seen Baywatch before, I'd probably been like, when is this series starting?
Mm.
I am fucking sold. I want to watch Hobie. I want to watch Mitch. I want to watch all these lifeguards. Yeah, take me to the beach. But it was more dramatic than I thought. It was like super bleak. Okay. It was like Handmaid's Tale on the beach.
Mm.
Surprised the shit out of me. But yeah, I think it was on YouTube. I mean, it's probably everywhere, but I recommend it. Panic at Malibu Pier.
Time for a Baywatch rewatch.
Yeah, start with this.
Baywatch? Bay rewatch.
Rewatch Baywatch. Yeah, we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah.
Baywatch watch.
Some listener will come up with something better, and they'll tell us in our Discord. So I watched The Horror of Party Beach from 1964. This is on Tubi.
Terror strikes from the bottom of the sea. An invasion of ghoulish atomic beasts who live off human blood. An entire city in the throes of panic, at the mercy of demons from the dead.
People are dumping chemicals in the ocean, and that gets you a monster who's going to ruin your day, pretty much. There's a few lines in this that I love, and it's basically the beginning of it is all like beach party stuff. It's like there's a band and they're playing songs and everyone's dancing. There's this really great song called the Zombie Stomp. That's fantastic. I'll put
that sounds familiar.
Try to insert some of that in here.
Oh, everybody do the zombie stomp. You slam your foot down with an awful pump. You reach out further, step me closer, It's the limit. Baby, don't be scared.
There's some lines like, you ain't seen nothing till you've seen Tina swing. Tina dies later. The googly-eyed monster kills her. She had to be punished because she was drinking. So you can't do that when you're a teenager, folks. Then there's like these two teens that are kissing. And one of them, the girl asks like, do you believe kissing is unhealthy? And the boy says, I don't know. I've never been sick. Anyway, there's jokes like that in this. Which it's so like wholesomely stupid that it's just fun in that way. But there's actually some gore in this that I really wasn't expecting. Like the bloody bodies washing up on the beach. There's a high body count too. At one point, the googly eye monster kills a bunch of girls in a cabin. Like there's like 15 to 20 girls in there. So it's got a super high body count in it. there's multiple googly-eyed monsters at that point, and so the two of the googly-eyed monsters take two of the girls. So it's almost like proto-humanoids from the deep, starting to get sleazy.
They're going to impregnate them.
They never actually explicitly say that, but that's what they took them for.
It's early 60s.
Yeah. But I really liked it. It had more gore, and it was a little bit more like, oh, they're going there with it kind of thing. Like, it started off, I was like, yeah, there's going to be beach songs and people like dancing and like, oh no, so-and-so is missing. And that's it. And like, then you see like the monster come up and like, you see the zipper and you're like, oh, and I was expecting that, and I got that, but it was also a lot more than that. So,
yeah, on Letterboxd, the little banner image up on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like that looks gory.
Yeah.
I like
that's
black and white.
That's
like
Tina. That's what you get for drinking, folks. Check her out on Letterboxd.
Well, as you say that, I'm going to pop open another Coronita.
Do it. Is this on me? Or
yeah, Free Space.
Okay, so next Free Space.
Zima.
Ew. I watched an Italian film called The Killers Are Our Guests from 1974. This is on YouTube. It's on the White Slaves of Chinatown channel, which everyone should be subscribed to if you're not. So we have 4 criminals, including one woman, and they rob a jewelry store. One of them is shot. He's not dead, but he needs a doctor. Another dies in a car crash. So then the remaining 3 find a doctor's house, and they force the doctor to help them while they wait for their fencing contact to show up, because they've robbed all these diamonds and they need their contact to take them to sell them to somebody else and they can get the money. It's pretty forgettable up until the end. It has some definite sleazy moments. Like one of the 2 guys is very rapey, but I don't know, these like home invasion movies to me, or even like Italian, that when it's doing something like this, if you don't have like a Thomas Milan and Almost Human, or like David Hess and House on the Edge of the Park kind of thing, the one guy is trying to go for that, but he's just like this bigger guy with orange hair, and he just doesn't, he looks like a dad, and he's trying to be threatening, and it's just like, it didn't work for me. But it does have a decent twist at the end that I didn't see coming. But then the movie goes on for 10 minutes after the twist, when I'm like, you could have just ended at the twist and I would have liked your movie a lot more. But I probably gave this 3 stars, but yeah, I liked it. Killers Are a Guess, 1974.
It's a cool poster.
Yeah.
My Free Space. I went with Buddies from 1985. This is, I've had this on my shelf for years that I bought from Vinegar Syndrome.
Why'd you want to cry this month?
I don't know. I wanted something to kind of break up the armed responses. And I wanted something really good. And I knew this had been sitting on my shelf for way too long. So I popped it in. And yeah, it was sad, but it was also kind of, so it's the first film to like address the AIDS epidemic. And it was released in 85. So it was like in the thick of it, like everything's going down. And it's about this young man, 25-year-old David, who volunteers to be a bedside companion of a gay man named Robert, who's in the hospital dying of AIDS. And the program that David's in is like the buddy program. So that's why it's called Buddies. And David, who's also a gay man, he learns about Robert's life and his relationships with his lovers and his family and friends and how they react to the disease. And David begins to kind of evaluate his own life with his longtime boyfriend and kind of like his views towards gay activism and stuff, and how the government's handling the AIDS issue. So it's like Robert is opening up his eyes in his young mind that he hasn't really taken into account. And yeah, it sounds super depressing because you are watching this man who ultimately will pass away in the movie. But it's kind of uplifting too, because David has like at the end of the movie, he's like kind of fighting the good fight. And I don't know. I want to watch more of the director, Arthur J. Bresson Jr. I want to watch more of his stuff. This is his first movie that I've seen of his. He passed away from AIDS 2 years after Buddies was released, as well as the actor that played Robert, the man with AIDS in the movie. He passed away as well in 1989. And it's Jeff Edholm who plays Robert, who he puts on an amazing performance, completely captivating, heartbreaking, but at the same time, you're like sold on everything he's doing. Like I read Dakota Newt's Letterboxd review.
Yeah.
And the review ends with, so minimally staged yet evocative and colorful, like a play made into a film, calling to action without ever feeling pedantic. It just works. It humanizes AIDS patients through Robert with humor, desire, and sadness. And it, like, that's spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, you could see the budget, but you don't care because it is like I don't know. It's just, it's not about like where the locations or anything like that. It's about these conversations they're having, and it's just really well written. So I do definitely want to check out Bresson's other stuff. Highly recommend it. But yeah, Vinegar Syndrome, there's some extras on there too I need to watch. But Buddies is definitely one of my favorites of the month.
Maybe somebody reads it and becomes more careful sexually. That knocks down their chances of getting it. Or somebody reads it and sends money to one of those gay centers. Or they get angry and they write a letter to the mayor and asks why more isn't being done.
Now we're going to Bruceploitation. It's me still.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fire on the Great Wall, also known as Ninja Over the Great Wall, or Great Wall Fighter, also known as from 1987. This is directed by Bruce Le. Is that it? The L.E. one? L.E.?
That's Lay.
Lay. Bruce
There's
Lay.
Lee, Lai, and Lay.
Okay, Bruce
And then there's
Lay.
Dragon Lee.
It's the Hyung Kin Lung. That's Bruce Lay. His real name. I don't know. Yeah. But he's in it. He stars in it. He directed it. Also included on the cast is Li Ning. And this was in the credits. It would say Li Ning, in parentheses, the world champion of gymnastics. And then Lung Yen, in parentheses, the famous volleyball player. It actually says this in the credits.
I had a movie just like that, like at the end of the month, Blood Fist 2, where they had all these people who were like karate and martial arts and boxing.
And they're putting their credits.
And they put their credits in the credit, like their name in like parentheses. Like
it was odd. I had never seen that before.
I hadn't either. That's weird that both you and I had a movie that did that this month.
But yeah, this is Japanese versus Chinese, like China's resilience against the occupation and like all the bloody battles. I think at the end it says something like the Chinese spirit stands strong and erect like the Great Wall.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce Lay plays this peasant who escapes mass murder of his village by the Japanese, and he joins his master in Beijing shortly before the old man is assassinated by ninjas. So he gets revenge for all of this. And it's just beautifully shot. Great shots of like foggy weather and fields. There's like this field, huge scene, and the camera kind of pans along, and it's just filled with skulls and bones. It's like Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Sick.
It's really great. Like, this thing had a big budget, nice production value, awesome set pieces. There's really, the end fight is actually on the Great Wall in the end. Tons of people. I mean, it's very impressive to watch. I watched a bad dubbed version on Tubi. Made it funny again. Great squibs, awesome decapitation. Bruce Lee destroys about 4 dozen ninjas in the grassy fields, and then in the jungle. Mm-hmm. There's this great nighttime fight. He fights like for days during like before the final battle. He's fighting all these ninjas for like days. Like, there's a nighttime fight scene of Lei taking on a ninja who's on fire, and then it cuts to the next morning and he's fighting ninjas in the snow. Beautiful stuff. It even has some of the animated effects, like when he punches somebody, it has animated ribs breaking during the fight. It's just great fun. Yeah, I highly recommend this one. I don't know if there is a release of it. The one on Tubi looks fine, but the dubbing is a little questionable.
Is it in the Severance set, maybe?
I don't think it was.
Okay. I mean, that's volume 1, so it could be on a one coming up if it's not.
Yeah, if it's not, I mean, I could be wrong too. I didn't pick it up, but it's worth a release for sure.
Okay. So I watched one from the set. John bought it. I watched Enter 3 Dragons from 1978. Assistant director Godfrey Ho. Oh. This movie is chaos incarnate. John tested me after we were done watching it. Literally 10 minutes after we finished watching it. He was like, tell me what the movie was about, Erica. And I was like, fuck. I was like, some guy has some diamonds stolen from him, but then 3 dragons / Bruce Lee clones show up, and there's a lot of fighting and hilarious dubbing and some sped up running away yakety sack comedy moments. And then someone's sister gets kidnapped. And that's the best that I could do. And I cannot wait to dive into more of this box.
Did he give you an A+? Was he like, you hit the nail on the head?
No, I got a B- because
passed.
I think I did as well as I could have. But I mean, there's just, I didn't know. John's watched a lot more Bruceploitation than I have. Like he did a deep dive on it last year or not last year, maybe the year before he knew that the set was coming out from Severin. And he'd been doing a bunch of watches. And so I think he has a better grasp on some of these and like knowing who's who. He's like, that's Dragon Lee. No, that's Bruce Lee. I'm like, which one's Bruce Lee? He's like, that one. I was like, okay. He's got it down a little bit more. He knows like who the expert on Bruceploitation is, who's done a lot of the intros for these movies on the set. And like, so I definitely want to dive headfirst into these movies fairly soon. Like I could have done like a Bruceploitation month if I could have figured out a way to make. I probably could have gotten a few of these to fit like all free spaces and like gangsters and
Maybe revenge and stuff.
Revenge for sure. I could have got in there, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Then Fulci on his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Fulci.
As always. Pickings are getting slim.
Yeah, you're scraping the bottom of the bucket. Yeah,
I am. But you know what? I did a Fulci Presents film this time. I'm still not ready to dip into the comedy. I don't know if I ever will, just because, what was it? Chi-Chi and whatever that duo is. Like, I can't. I don't want to. I only have so many years left to live. I don't think I ever want to go there, but
you'll get it. You'll get there.
Yeah.
You're going to live forever.
I don't think so. I did have to download this one, Hansel and Gretel, 1990. There are no houses made of candy. Instead, we have a group of criminals who are trafficking children and selling their organs. So, dead kid movie. We have 2 children, a sister and a brother, that are killed at the beginning. They come back as ghosts and kill everyone involved. Their presence is signaled by a children's song and red light flashing around their eyes. So like if you look at the poster, it looks like there's blood dripping from their eyes. No, they're literally someone's shining a red flashlight in their eyes in the scenes for that. That's the effect. No blood.
Well, they have blood on the poster.
I know, but it's a red flashlight in their eyes is what it is.
That's funny.
So the weirdest thing about this movie is the cop who is investigating the case decides that she's just going to stay at the house of these people. Like all these people are getting murdered and like around the house and like the criminals that she's investigating. She just shows up with her fucking bag and she's like, yep, I'm going to stay here. Like that's what? And I think my review is ACAB. So I don't know. There are some good kills. A tractor runs over a guy. There's a shower scalding. The one person has an eye popping out of their head. So like there's some good gore in here. It's, dead kids and dumbass fucking cop. And it wraps up kind of weird. And like her whole, how she believes what's happening with it is not really believable, but I still liked it. Probably 3 stars. I don't know. Hansel and Gretel for Fulci for me.
Nice.
What about you?
I went with a co-written by Fulci, which is a Western, The Man Who Shot Billy the Kid from 1967, also known as I'll Kill Him and Return Alone.
I like that title better.
Yeah, I think that wasn't what was on Tubi. I think the one on Tubi said The Man Who Shot, Billy the Kid.
Okay.
Because, first off, good cold opener. Pat Garrett's riding into town, and when someone says to him, like, great work for killing that bad gun, Billy the Kid, Garrett hops off his horse and just beats this guy's ass. Then he walks over to Billy the Kid's grave, and there's a sign nailed to a cross that says, killed by his best friend. And he grabs the sign, he breaks it over his leg, freeze frame, of, like the broken wood and him like looking all serious.
Mhm.
And then a 3-line title pops up, a 3-line title card. The man, next line, who shot, next line, Billy the Kid. And there's a gunshot and it shoots the man off. So it just says, who shot Billy the Kid. I'm like, okay, this is going to be, and then of course it shoots it again. Then it just says Billy the Kid. And I'm like, I'm into it. Really sharp. Certainly not, I guess we don't know what is historically correct retelling of the story right now, but in this one, Billy...
It's Fulci's, obviously, Lance.
It's this one. He wrote it. He co-wrote it. So in this one, Billy's a young kid. He finds a man who's attempting to rape his mother, and he kills the man with a knife. And this is the first man he's ever killed, and he's worried about the law, and his mom's like, go to Pat Garrett and get some help. So he runs to Pat Garrett. Pat wants to help. He's kind of like, okay, it's going to take a while. I got to talk to the sheriff and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Billy gets scared. He runs away, and he's on the run, and that's when he begins this life of pretty much stealing and killing, and he gets more confident in like his tough kid ways. So Garrett starts going after him because, Billy's mom is like, please help him get Pat. And, all these kids all these characters are really well portrayed by these actors. This felt very much like, have you seen Arthur Penn's The Left-Handed Gun, starring Paul Newman as Billy the Kid?
I don't think so, no.
So Paul Newman in that, it's from like 1958. And I had read too that this is kind of pulled from a lot of that source. But Billy the Kid goes after the men who murdered Tunstall and that. And Paul Newman, it's okay. Actually, I probably enjoyed this one better. I read online as I was like, because I noticed that Fulci's name wasn't in the opening credits. Mm-hmm. And I was like, did I just watch this movie and it has nothing to do with Fulci? So I jumped online. He did co-write. He did co-write it, but the movie's it's officially credited to director Julio Bucks. I guess that's how you say his name. Who did A Bullet for Sandoval? But there's like its genesis is like it's obscure. Like a long time before there had been rumors that Buck's other Western, A Bullet for Sandoval, was co-directed by Fulci.
Okay.
But this was strongly denied by actor George Hamilton, who starred in it. And then in a recent interview, Italian director Nick Nostro stated that Fulci had instead worked and co-directed this movie, The Man Who Shot Billy the Kid. So there's apparently he might have had a bigger hand than just co-writing it, which I thought was a little bit interesting. It also co-stars, see if I remember how to say her name, Dianique Zurakowska from Sweet Sound of Death.
Oh, okay.
She's in it. She's great in it, beautiful, does a great job, plays Billy's kind of love interest. It's good. It loses a bit of steam in the last 30 minutes with kind of like a pretty mediocre ending. I mean, you know kind of how it ends, but I think it's worth a watch. I feel like I gave it 3 stars.
Okay.
And then we're jumping to day 18, just chugging along here. Gangsters. This was one of my favorites of the month. A Cult is My Passport. What a fucking awesome title. Mm-hmm. This is from 1967. It's a Japanese gangster movie directed by Takashi Nomura. I had this one on my watch list for years. It's about a hitman who's hired to kill a family boss who's getting greedy and taking over territories that others run. And the hit is successful, murders the guy, and he attempts to board a plane to leave the country for France. The murdered boss's men are already waiting at the airport. So the entire movie is pretty much the hitman and his buddy on the run from while all these gangsters are after him. And it immediately has an introduction just like a spaghetti western with like gunshots firing. It has this Morricone sounding soundtrack, the score complete with like whistling and acoustic guitar. Very strange for like a beautiful black and white Japanese gangster film. But it fits so well because it is, a lot of these are kind of based on westerns. But I mean, this thing's got everything you want from a gangster movie. Great car chases, murders, a lot of hiding out, tough guys with little emotion. Like I said, the cinematography, it's gorgeous black and white. And the score is kind of like the scene stiller. There's this unique moment where one of the gangsters sings a slow song on acoustic guitar, and it lasts a few minutes. It's like a 3-minute song. It's a full song, and it took me completely by surprise because it didn't really fit, but I fully dug it because the captions, the subtitled lyrics are kind of like breaking down the lead. It's narrating what he's going through, and it's strange yet perfectly timed emotional shift in the film that really worked for me. But these performances are awesome. I enjoyed the quote love interest because she's like a total badass. She kicks ass in it.
Mm-hmm.
She's not like some wimpy-eyed kind of like Candy that's just written into the script or something, eye candy.
Yeah.
But she's great in it. No spoilers, but it has a great final showdown in like this deserted landfill. I saw you included it in the Junesploitation, just a little bit.
A little clip in there. Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite of the months. Highly recommended. The Cold is My Passport. Mm-hmm. I forgot where I watched it. It might have been like Daily Motion or something, or Vimeo or somewhere. Okay. It wasn't like on YouTube that I could find.
Okay. It's funny, like it took me years to remember Joe Shishido's name. For whatever reason, it just did not stick in my brain. And so I'd always have to ask John, I'm like, John, who's the Japanese guy with the cheeks?
Yeah.
And he's like, Joe Shishido. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember it. Yeah. I think I finally got it.
I mean, when he first popped up, I thought it was fake. I thought he was like trying to do a Marlon Brand,
He got cheek implants.
Oh, is that for real?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was just his face.
No, he got cheek implants.
Yeah, it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
What an odd choice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a thing you can do.
Yeah. I mean, you stand out. You know exactly who he is.
So Gangsters for me was Dillinger from 1973.
They were called public enemies. In fact, they were public legends. And the greatest of all was John Dillinger, the gangster's gangster. Nobody did it like Dillinger.
And directed by John Milius from Conan the Barbarian. Warren Oates plays John Dillinger. Harry Dean Stanton again plays Homer, who's one of the people in his gang. Ben Johnson as the G-Man. Melvin Purvis. I mean, what can I say? It's Warren Oates as John Dillinger. I mean, it's probably the most perfect casting ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just charming as hell and exactly the kind of anti-hero you would root for. I saw lots of reviews comparing this to something Peckinpah directed, and I think that's pretty spot on. It's, it's gritty, it's nihilistic, it's funny. It takes some jabs at like Bonnie and Clyde, which came out earlier. And like, this was another one of my favorites of the month. Like I love the 70s, like all this, the new Hollywood stuff. Like this is what turned out to be all my favorite stuff. I got Hickey and Boggs, Dillinger, and Cisco Pike as my favorites for the month. It's like, I think there's, it's kind of, besides Italian horror, like these kinds of movies are really kind of like my comfort food, or like my warm blanket.
Cloris Leachman in it.
Yes. Yeah. It's a fucking banger. Like if anyone hasn't seen it, it's on Tubi. Warren Oates is just perfection in it. Check it out. And then my 80s horror pick, I have another gap that I'm filling with Wes Craven. And I watched Deadly Blessing from 1981. I did not realize that Deadly Blessing was before Nightmare on Elm Street, and that in that poster is Sharon Stone. I didn't know either of those things going into this movie. That's Sharon Stone.
Really?
Yes.
Do I believe this?
I mean, it's an artist rendition of her, but the scene that's taken from is Sharon Stone.
Oh, she's in it. Okay.
Yeah, she's in it.
Then that's probably her. Yeah. Wow.
And there's even like a bathtub leg spread, something comes up between the legs scene in this. So I'm like, oh, Wes Craven really likes that idea, I guess. So it's about Martha. She lives with her husband on a remote farm. He's an ex-Hittite, and they live next to his family who are still practicing Hittites. And they call her the incubus. They think she used the devil charm to lure him away from them. The husband dies really early on, and her friends, including Sharon Stone, 2 women, they come to stay with her for a bit while she's grieving and, figuring shit out, because she's pregnant, and she's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to stay here at least until spring when the baby comes, and they're trying to convince her to go back home to LA. Sharon Stone spends the whole movie in a silk nightgown, or multiple silk nightgowns. She brought plenty with her. There's one scene where she's in a barn where she's wearing actual clothes, but if she's in the house, she's in a silk nightgown.
That's what you do.
I mean, she's beautiful. So, it's basically like the Hittites are like, she's the incubus, and like people start dying. Michael Berryman's in it, and he's one of them. He dies fairly early on. There's some like hooded figure that's killing people. And I figured it out pretty early because like it's, process of elimination, figuring out who it was. I was like, okay, well, it's that person. But then there actually is, no, I don't want to spoil the ending, but like,
yeah, I want to watch this.
The ending seemed a little bit like tacked on, where it was like, well, we know we were pretending it was this, but it's actually this, but we're also going to throw in this. And it, I don't know. It was pretty messy story-wise, especially the ending. Yeah, it's fine. It's got Ernest Borgnine in it too. So, I mean, yeah, I always like him. He, of course, plays like the patriarch of the Hittites, because what else would Ernest Borgnine play in a movie like that?
He's not the hooded figure?
I'm not going to spoil it. Maybe he is. No. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I finally watched it because it's like a Wes Craven movie I'd never seen before. You can definitely tell there's moments in it that are very much him, but it's not my favorite.
It's okay. On Tubi?
Yeah, it's on Tubi. Check it out. What about you? 80s horror.
Okay, my 80s horror pick is The Power. Boo. From 1984 on Tubi. We talked about this on the Torment episode, directed by Stephen Carpenter, Jeff Obrow, score by Christopher Young, starring the great Warren Lincoln as Jerry. Susan Stokey is the lead, who I mentioned from Fred Olen Ray's Armed Response. It's got that child kill. I don't think I mentioned this in the Torment episode, but The Power has that total Twin Peaks moment where there's a crew member in the reflection of a mirror.
Oh yeah,
that's how Killer Bob was cast.
Right.
I was hoping that that guy would have been the fucking dick-nosed demon. But anyways, yeah, listen to the Torment episode. I liked it. Erica hated it.
Apparently, I hate everything.
Yeah. Just a bummer. We hate everything. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Day 20, Blaxploitation. This, I think, is my favorite of the month.
Okay.
Trouble Man from 1972.
I have been wanting, I keep bumping this. I feel like this has been on my Junesploitation list like multiple years, and I keep bumping it for something else like more obscure. And I'm like,
yeah,
I need to do it.
I think I've had it in my watch list. Like it was one of my very like bottom watch lists on Letterboxd. I've had it in for years and years. So I finally popped it on, and yeah, one of my favorites. Directed by Ivan Dixon, who did The Spook, Who Sat by the Door. Super tight script, some of the best dialogue, like in just like in a crime thriller. Like it's a blaxploitation film, but it seems I got like Across 110th Street vibes from it, which is a 5-star banger for me. This one, I think I gave 4.5 stars to Trouble Man.
Wow.
Has great like crime double cross plots, a lot of twists and turns. It stars Robert Hooks, he goes by Mr. T. They call him T.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's Trouble Man. But he's like this respected all-purpose ghetto fixer who gets pulled in by other gangs or by others in this gang war that he doesn't really want anything to be involved with because he's so kind of cool and he gets things done and he doesn't like to, ruffle feathers. Yeah, there's just so much double crossing going in this that I didn't see coming. And I think that's why I was so surprised by it. But not only because of the script, but because of the like perfect performances from everybody, including Robert Hooks, Paul Winfield, Julius Harris. Yeah, this thing's just kind of perfect. The music's amazing. Marvin Gaye handling the score. This is the only film he ever provided music for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I highly recommend this one.
Nice.
Trouble is here. He's street smart and steel hard. He's a healer, a fixer.
My name's T, baby.
Wears $600 suits. Drives a $10,000 car, and he carries 2 guns. One to stop trouble and one to make trouble. He was born in the ghetto and raised in the streets. He's been a man since he was a kid, and trouble is this man's name.
So my blaxploitation pick was Black Starlet from 1974. This is on YouTube. This is another one that's on the White Slaves of Chinatown channel. It stars Juanita Brown from Caged Heat that we've covered and talked about before as Clara/Carla. And she moves from the Midwest to become a star in Hollywood. Marilyn Monroe is referenced multiple times. They even have a scene where Clara stops at her star on the Walk of Fame and like has a little like moment, and so it's
her dress doesn't blow up or anything
no,
like that.
No, nothing like that. But it's clearly like that's the exploitation tale that's being told here is like we're going to do like the Black person version of that.
Right.
And besides Juanita Brown, this has, I didn't write down his name, Grandpa from the Munsters, isn't it?
Al Lewis.
Okay. And so I did like it. My problem with it is like it wasn't fun. So there's what's the movie by Christopher St. John?
Top of the Heap?
Yeah. So you know how like Top of the Heap is like you think you're going to turn on like some really fun like blaxploitation movie where he's going to fuck up some cops or or something like that, and it turns out to be this like super heavy.
Yeah.
And this isn't at that level, but it's not fun. It's really like her compromising herself to move to the top and like multiple times like having to get on the producer's couch kind of thing, and then she just becomes a really ugly person, and the people that want to help her are right there, and it's like you could just take their help and you would be fine and you could still be successful. You're a beautiful woman, you'll succeed. And it was a little bit of a frustrating watch. Depressing look at her rising to the top by laying down. And then it takes, there's a very weak turnaround with like 1 minute left in the movie. I mean, I get it. Like everyone in Hollywood is an asshole. And that's what this movie is at its core trying to say is like everyone was there to take advantage of her, except for like the one person that she turned her back on. Grandpa Munster calls everyone a slob. He runs a dry cleaning business. He's like, they're these slobs. Juanita looks fucking gorgeous, though. Even on a shitty YouTube copy, she is stunning in this. The director is Chris Munger. He only has one other film, Kiss of the Tarantula, and that one's not very good. So don't recommend that one. I'd recommend this one like loosely, but like go in with expectations that like, you're not going to get a fun blaxploitation film. And then AIP, Atragon, which we already talked about.
Yes.
It's on Tubi, Shiro Honda. Lance, your AIP pick.
I'm going with the Samuel K. Arkoff produced movie, The Monkey Hustle from 1976. Directed by Arthur Marks, who did Friday Foster, JD's Revenge, Bucktown, great blaxploitation films. Monkey Hustle stars Yaphet Kotto as Daddy Fox. Also has Rudy Ray Moore in it. But Kotto is the lead. He's a small-time gangster of sorts, and he's hiring these young kids to help him run these illegal trades. He kind of acts like as a big-time mentor, kind of spouting advice and rhymes. Like he kind of raps these great.
Are you gonna do it?
No, they weren't that memorable. I didn't. It's just a
snack attack.
Yeah, it's a snack attack. It gave me rapping vibes, especially because of Yaphet Kotto would rap here and there and sing like these advice, but there was this subplot where the whole kind of neighborhood is trying to stop an expressway from being built through their neighborhood, just like in rapping.
Yeah.
Which is very odd. But the tone in this is really strange. Marx is kind of known for his like blaxploitation films, Friday Foster, JD's Revenge, Bucktown. They're kind of gritty in some regards, but this is like PG rated, lighthearted, family friendly kind of hangout movie.
Okay.
Which it's fun. Like I had a good time with it. It wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, I knew Rudy Ray Moore was in it. I mean, actually the poster looks a little silly, but I thought it was going to have like some kind of like, like kind of emotional messaging in it, but not a whole lot. Laird called this in his Letterboxd review a depoliticized MMA, all about the gags and friendships, which I can kind of see. But MMA has, I don't know, it seems like serious through and through. Yeah. Like even the messages, like there's not even like sometimes during the hangout scenes. But having said that, the characters in this are great. There just aren't a lot of stakes in this. Kotto does explain the monkey hustle though, because you're kind of like, what's the monkey hustle? And it's one night. It's kind of like the most serious scene in the movie. He's just over at his lover's house. He's laying with his head in her lap, and he says, "When he's down, he screams, he hollers, he scratches to get over. He splits before he lets the rest of the jungle know he's full of it. That's the monkey hustle."
Okay.
So he's basically kind of faking his way to power in the streets.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my AIP. It was okay. I think I gave that one 3 stars. 2000s action. Okay, so I already mentioned Fred Williamson is perfect for Junesploitation. So I went with the Fred Williamson Po' Boy production, Down and Dirty from 2000. He directs and stars in this, of course. It's called a sequel to Night Vision, which already probably isn't doing itself any favors. So you can guess the synopsis of the movie. It's the same as all the others. He's a cop, his partner's murdered, and he investigates. He has to go talk to his partner's widow to let her know. She tries to fuck him. It's Fred Williamson. He's unstoppable.
Sure.
If Fred Williamson is a cop and you're cast as his partner in the movie, you're fucking dead. Like within the first 15 minutes. It's just the way it is. But listen to the cast. Like these Po' Boy productions usually always have a fun cast. This has Bubba Smith, who's Hightower from Police Academy.
Right.
Tony LoBianco, Sam Jones, David Carradine again, Charles Napier, Andrew Divoff, and of course, Gary Busey.
Of course.
They all kind of have small roles for the most part. Gary Busey plays the crazy main villain, but
What? Come
believe
on.
it or not, but he's not in it that much. But yeah, it's bad. Like it's just my Letterboxd review. I'm just going to read though. Williamson is back as the cigar sucking, breaking all the rules, hot dog and horny, knees creaking asshole cop Dakota Smith. With the longest runtime in the Po' Boy Productions catalog, you certainly feel the hour 42 minutes.
Ooh.
Yeah, slowing down. It's got a great cast of regulars that even with this exhausting runtime, they're just not given enough time on screen. But those Down and Dirty and Will You Come Back, in parentheses, DAC, original songs alone make this worth the watch. Po' Boy never lets me down. This is probably a half or 1 star movie, but if you're rating it by Po' Boy standards, it's like a 3.
Okay.
So nice work, Williamson. This one's just too long. All right. Yeah. This is probably one of your favorite categories, right? 2000s action.
I don't even remember watching this. You know what? I watched it super early in the month to get it over with. I did the same thing last year where there was a category that I was like, fuck this category. And I got it out of the way super quickly. I watched The Killing Device from 2004. I think this was on my watch list because Clu Gulager's in it. I think that's the only reason.
It was on your watch list, though.
Yeah. So I'm going to guess because, Gulager. Here's what my notes. Woof. Some government program that puts tooth implants into people to turn them into assassins. Charisma vacuum for our lead guy. Repetitive, boring, poorly written, excessive ADR, and one of the worst throw my hands up endings I've ever seen. Not so bad it's good, just fucking bad. Clu Gulager with a mustache is the highlight.
Oh, that does sound worth watching.
No.
Dang.
Yeah. I didn't care for it. I don't recommend. 1 star would not recommend. So then our next free space, I watched Lovely But Deadly from 1981, and I watched this on YouTube. I watched this because I saw the poster for it, and I was like, fuck yeah. I'm going to get tricked again. This is going to be great. And it's not very good. So Marianne goes undercover at a high school after her brother ODs on drugs. There's a lot of reviews that compare this to Coffee, which is technically true, but morally wrong because this movie is only 13% as entertaining as Coffee. The YouTube copy was shit, especially the sound, which kept going up and down. There are some fun fight scenes in it, and the Martial Arts Academy, where it's all women, has the dopest uniforms. Like, seriously, whatever martial art they're doing, karate, jinjitsu, whatever the fuck, I would take it up just to get that outfit.
Is that what's on the poster here? The striped top? And is that?
Yeah, except black leggings. So It's black leggings, like a zebra-esque top and then a red belt. And I was like, fuck yeah, I would rock that if I got to, if that was the outfit for martial arts, I would totally take it up. It has an original title song, so checks that box for you. And it comes on, I think, right after the cold open, where the brother is high as balls and they're at the beach and he drowns in the ocean, which, I was really hoping there would be a shark attack there, but then I realized he died because he overdosed, not because sharks, so it wouldn't make sense. But I wanted that to happen. I don't know, Marianne's boyfriend or something is some up and coming musician, and that's somehow important to the plot. I don't know. I don't remember it very well. I know that there was this one scene where all the girls from the martial arts academy got together and were this big group of girls running around and kicking and punching the bad people. That was really funny.
The composer, Robert Raglan, did a couple of William Girdler movies.
Oh, there you go. We got a nice tie-in there.
Grizzly and Abby.
There you go.
All right.
I don't know. I wanted to like this a lot more just based on the poster, but there just wasn't much more to like. So unfortunately, it is what it is. What about your next free space?
Okay, so this was a quick kind of audible change for me. I picked the Canadian tax shelter film called Blood Relatives from 1978.
Donald Sutherland's in it, yeah. Okay.
So Donald Sutherland had just recently passed away. I was visiting the in-laws and I was like, I'm going to watch something on my laptop because at that point they didn't have a smart TV. So I was like, I'm going to watch something with Donald Sutherland, directed by Claude Chabrol. This is based off from an Ed McMahon 87th Precinct novel, and it stars Donald Sutherland, David Hemmings, Lisa Langlois, and Laurent Mallet. That's the guy from Invitation to Travel, right? Lucien.
Okay, yeah, this was one I was going to watch for the podcast, and that's why this sounds familiar. That's why I could remember that Donald Sutherland was in it. Yeah. Oh my God, look at me.
Yeah, that was impressive. I was like, okay. But yeah, it begins with this unsettling scene of this 17-year-old girl who's been murdered in an alley, and Donald Sutherland plays this Canadian cop. He's on the case. It's actually an awesome police procedural that just flies by.
Oh.
Everything, there's not much action in it, but it's edited and presented in this realistic manner, and how the characters react and the investigation that takes place. It kept me entirely fixated, which I was surprised with. I just kind of popped it on because I was like, okay, this looks like a horror. I want to watch. I feel like watching a horror here in my in-laws' guest room.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this missing diary from the murdered 17-year-old that holds a lot of the clues to her life and likely what happened. Very much like Laura Palmer.
Twin Peaks. Yeah, I was just about this. Waiting for that.
Sutherland, he's looking for that. Once he finds it and begins reading it, it's a little past halfway the runtime. The entries, as he's reading alone at night, his wife's in bed, she's like, "You should come to bed, honey." He's like, "Just a minute." And he's reading these all night long. Everything that he's reading is being acted out, in flashback scenes, these interpreted flashbacks. And it's an interesting change to the police procedural. That's pretty much the entire movie that was working so well for me. But I really like the difference in storytelling because there's a lot of, it has certain characters telling, what the 17-year-old's cousin was actually there when she was murdered, and she has her interpretation of the story. So you see that first, and then you start reading what really happened, and you start seeing it. It has it, and the main twist I kind of saw early on, but it didn't really interfere with my enjoyment of it. I just kind of wanted to see how it got there, and it really surprised me how it got there. I was kind of impressed. Donald Pleasance plays a sexual offender who likes little girls.
Oh, you said that way.
That's my Donald Pleasance voice.
I know, but ew.
He was arrested. His character, not Donald Pleasance. He was arrested for sodomy of a 10-year-old girl. I know, right? So he's a suspect of the murder, and then they find out that he's also in love with a 13-year-old girl who he met when he was 12, and that's his alibi. When that girl was murdered, it was, and there's Sutherland goes to talk to this 13-year-old girl. She's all, "I don't know what you're talking about." She's denying it, and it's very uncomfortable. And then that scene's kind of just Donald Pleasance just kind of tossed out. Okay, it wasn't him.
Right.
Good luck with your love life. It's just weird.
Ew, stop it.
I know, it's terrible. It is like a French Canadian type movie, and so some of the dubbing's off kilter. Like the little girls are clearly dubbed, and it's like it sounds like grown ups talk, when they talk. But I'm into bad dubbing.
Sure,
I'm into it, and it kind of added to like this dreamlike quality of the whole thing. But yeah, I enjoyed this one way more than I thought I would. So I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. But yeah, Sutherland, of course, is perfect in this role. He was such an amazing actor. Like, boom.
Nice.
Good stuff. Still me. So we're going to Cars next.
Yes.
Day 24, almost there. Death Car on the Freeway, 1979.
Tonight on the CBS Tuesday Night Movie, they call him the Fiddler. His targets, women, alone. He's the death car on the freeway. Shelley Hack is the young newscaster who tries to stop him.
You need me.
George Hamilton, her ex-husband.
You are scared to death. I might just make it on my own.
With Peter Graves, Dinah Shore, and Abe Vigoda in an explosive story of women in jeopardy.
The freeway fiddler has killed 9 women and will surely kill again.
Death Car on the Freeway.
This is a CBS Tuesday Night Movie from the late 70s, directed by Hal Needham, who did Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. Starring Shelley Hack, the mom from The Stepfather, and a lot of other movies. George Hamilton, Peter Graves, Abe Vigoda has a small role in it. My Letterboxd review kind of sums it up. It's a giallo on wheels. There's a black-gloved killer who drives a rape van, and he pops in an 8-track when barreling down the freeway after his latest victim.
Sick.
And there are always women drivers that are by themselves in their car. I call this the Fiddler's Fury Road because the press gets a hold of it, the reporters do, and through eyewitnesses and stuff, they say they always hear crazy music coming from the van. And that 8-track is like a fucking distortion, like crazy bluegrass fiddle. Like,
oh, okay.
And it literally sounds like the guitar player from Fury Road, the guy that's all, it's like so chaotic, but it's also a play on Fury Road. But yeah, it's really well done. Like you won't guess who the killer is.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you that right now. Anybody who's watching it, you can take all the guesses you want. You will never guess it.
It's the car.
It's not the car. You see the person putting on gloves and stuff and throughout the time. So
the car comes to life. It's the car. Haven't you seen the Disney movie Cars? They can kill people.
I've seen it. It's not Owen Wilson.
All right.
He's in Cars. Great opening scene of this woman getting chased and she's run off the freeway. I think it takes place on the Ventura Freeway. But yeah, the black gloved driver in a van. Then this news reporter played by Shelley Hack catches wind of it and she begins investigating, which puts her in danger. So obviously the final showdown kind of involves her. A lot of the scenes on the freeway are kind of nerve wracking. It's just drivers trying to merge or exit and around speeding drivers. Made me feel very kind of uncomfortable and just tense.
Yeah.
But I busted out laughing, I have to say, in this one scene where this badly burned woman, she was burned in a wreck after the driver caused her to crash, is telling the reporter about hearing the music coming from his van. And she says, it's like country, like crazy fiddling, and that he was getting off on it. And her husband's standing there with the reporter, and the camera zooms in on him, and he says, "My God, how sick can one creep kid?" And his wife dies right there after. He's like thinking of this fiddler guy, and this wife just dies in the bed. I just started fucking laughing. But no, Shelley Hack is great in it. I think everybody else is. George Hamilton plays her very horny, very, very tan ex-husband who's trying to get her back. Hal Needham actually comes up. He has a great role as the instructor of a defensive driving class who teaches.
Sid Haig's in this.
Yeah, and then Sid Haig pops up as like he's just some sort of he's at a car club, like these gearheads.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he's like, "I know who the guy is you're looking for. Go talk to the guy with the scar on his face." Like putting it. It's fun. I mean, it's and as soon as he popped up, I was like, "That's the killer. That's the fucking driver, Sid Haig." Anyways, yeah.
Wait, did you just spoil it?
No. Because I guess you're not going to guess it. You're not going to guess who the killer is.
It's the car.
Watch it.
All
Weird
right.
unraveling at the end. It's almost a little anticlimactic. But I really dug it. Great stunt work, as you kind of expect from the director. But yeah, no spoilers. Because this is one I could see picking for a future episode. It's that fun.
Okay.
I just don't know if
I'm into it.
I guess it falls into horror. There's definitely some dead bodies.
I'm sorry. There's a car killing people. Like, yeah, that's all.
I mean, you're talking about a different movie, but okay. I do recommend it. It was on YouTube.
It's got the horror tag on it.
It does on Letterboxd. Okay.
Yeah, count it.
It's great.
And Sam has seen it. No surprise.
Yeah, no,
3 stars with a heart.
3 star. I gave it 3.5. I think.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I mean, very close to 4.
I feel like this should be a pick this year.
I think it might be.
I'm into it because I want you to pick it so I can watch it.
A lot of in Dangerous Games, like Dangerous Game, the Junesploitation pick. I got a few.
All right.
To put on the
excellent.
Back. What's yours though?
Cars. I watched Thunder Road from 1958. This is on a lot of places. Prime, Tubi, Freevee, Hoopla. Anyway, and it's all over the place. It's based on an original story by and starring Robert Mitchum. He plays Luke, who returns home from the Korean War. His father's a moonshiner, and Luke is the runner. And so he's basically like running from the cops, running from gangsters who are trying to take over. All the while, he's trying to keep his kid brother out of the moonshining business. He's got some love interests that are like, you need to quit mooning or shining or whatever it is. It's probably shining. Although mooning would be funny. Yeah, it's, beautiful black and white, like just fast cars up and down like Appalachian mountain roads and shit. It's just Mitchum just looking fucking cool with his greased hair and cigarette dangling out of his mouth and just being a snack.
Way better than his emotionless brother.
Yeah. My God, yeah. Okay, so James Mitchum.
Yeah.
Who looks like him, but not. I mean, he doesn't have he's not as bad as Chris Mitchum, but he doesn't carry. How do you just you can't compete with Robert Mitchum is really what it comes down to.
It's true. Because they all look the same.
You could share 98% of Robert Mitchum's genes and you cannot pull off what that man can do. You cannot be as cool as him. You cannot be as sexy as him. You can't do it. I'm sorry. You can't be as menacing or anything he's just perfection in fucking everything he does. Even when he phones it in later 80s movies and stuff I don't care. I think he's wonderful and perfect. And Thunder Road, 1958. Everyone should watch it.
More savage than the Tommy Gun Massacre of the Roaring Twenties.
Nobody beats a federal murder rap. They'll stalk those ridges until there isn't a still left in Kentucky or Tennessee.
You think it's that easy, huh?
Now, how rough do you want it?
You put your dirty, fat hands on my kid brother. I swore I'd kill anybody that tried to make him a whiskey runner.
That hard-headed hillbilly has caused us enough trouble already. Now, tonight we're going to take him out. And I mean really out. Now get going.
Trapped between the T-Men and the terror mob on Thunder Road.
Vigilantes. So I watched Wild Team from 1985. This was on Prime. I read the description wrong. And I didn't, honestly, I was like, I'm busy this month. I'm not going to change it out and try and find another vigilante movie. And because, I don't know, whatever. It's actually mercenaries, not vigilantes. So I'm like, whatever, it's close enough.
What's done is done. It works.
And the reason I didn't want to change it out is because it's got Antonio Sabato and I love him. And Ivan Rassimov, and they're leading a group to rescue the kidnapped son of the president of some other country. Directed by Umberto Lenzi. It's not great, but not entirely forgettable because it has this sort of, I don't know, it felt like the movie was on a timer where it's like, oh, they're getting bored now, throw in something interesting, make everyone go hang gliding. And so you have a scene of the group, Sabata and Rassimov going hang gliding. And I'm like, okay, sure. I'm into it. I don't know. It's not very good, but it's Italian. It's an action movie. It checks some boxes. It's worth watching at some point.
Nice. So my vigilante, this is why I had Chris Mitchum on my mind, because he stars in this one.
Oh.
It's The Executioner Part 2, directed by James Bryan, who did Jungle Trap, Lady Street Fighter, Don't Go in the Woods, all those great ones. Renee Harmon is the producer, writer. She plays a journalist in this. Like I said, Chris Mitchum plays his emotionless self. Like as I like pulled this up, like when you were finished talking about your vigilante, I was like, he's in this movie. I watched a movie with Chris Mitchum.
He's so forgettable.
He is. He's terrible.
He can be in like the greatest movie around him, where like Final Score, like that movie is a fucking banger. Everything is exploding around Chris Mitchum, and he's just like, ugh.
Yeah, he's terrible. It's amazing.
When crime took over the city, he came to clean it up. Muggers, rapists, and thugs, beware. Death Wish started it. The Exterminator continued it. The Executioner Part 2 will finish it.
But yeah, the movie I had a lot of fun with. The first 5 minutes, it's like Vietnam, 1970. U.S. soldiers are all getting slaughtered. Then like an immediate cut to like a downtown scene, and the city cops are at a murder scene, and they're talking, and the only clue that they have is that the killer calls himself the Executioner. I'm like, this thing's gonna fucking rule. And yeah, there's the Executioner. He's cleaning up the city. He's killing the criminals. He's killing the rapists, the drug dealers, the pimps, blowing them up with grenades. It's pissing the police off because everybody in the city think that, he's doing a better job than all of them. So they really want to catch him. It's James Bryan. It's very low budget, which could turn some people off, but you know how we like these type of movies.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's got a fantastic poster too.
It does. Obviously it's not a sequel. It's just The Executioner Part 2. But I love these actors who are putting as Chris Mitchum, who are just putting, it becomes entertaining how little effort they're putting into their performances. And what I love about these type of movies, and The Executioner Part 2 is a perfect example, is that all the men in there, whether they're playing like college students or cops or or gang members, young and old, they're all like 30 or 40 something, like out of shape men. And I'm like, I can relate to this. Like, this is real life. Like, this is good. Like, this is what I'm here. It's just fun to watch. This is why I'm here. It's exactly what I was hoping it'd be. One of the funnest watches I had of the month. Check it out. Executioner Part 2. I forgot where I watched it. Then we're going to, is this our last free space?
This is the last one, yeah.
Day 26. I went with Zeus, the Crime Killer. It's a vanity project by George Pan-Andreas.
Okay.
This Greek actor. He wrote, directed, starred in it. It's from 1987. I'm going to read the summary on Letterboxd because it's a mess like the movie.
Okay.
Zeus is all business, a no-frills, hard-nosed CIA agent under normal circumstances. First off, he's actually a cop.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, a furious, unrelenting crime killer when rubbed the wrong way. Forced into an early retirement for a bit of overly destructive police work, Zeus must sit by and watch as a crime syndicate wages war against drug enforcement agents and makes a laughingstock of the intelligence community. Only one man can turn the tables in this unholy war. The FBI enlists Zeus as an undercover agent. Only this time he is given free rein to use any and all methods at his disposal. Like a man possessed, Zeus throws his entire arsenal of wit, weaponry, and vengeance into his job.
That's a long. That's on the Letterboxd.
It's on the Letterboxd.
Good Lord!
And it's perfect because that's what the movie's like. It's just like, what's happening? What's going on? It's too long. Zeus. I feel like the director George Pan-Andreas, he wrote that. He's so serious in his character.
Yeah.
I felt like that this movie is kind of what Junesploitation is all about, really.
Okay.
I watched it actually last night. It was the perfect kind of way to close it out. I just got to go. I had a few bullet points from like so many fun moments. The guy playing the chief of police, he's a fucking cartoon. overacting, my kind of overacting, just totally losing his mind. There's the music by Hugh Coles. It's so ill-fitting. It becomes like a character of its own. Zeus recruits his Vietnam buddies to train with him, and there's this training montage that you have to see to believe.
I believe it.
Zeus kicks a guy into a pool, and the guy, he's like a gangster guy. He's like yelling. He's like, I can't swim. And it's just like a shallow little pool as he's fighting to stay above water. And Zeus coolly looks at him and he says, learn, punk, learn, and walks away. So the guy drowns in the pool. And it has a great original song during the end credits called Zeus the Man. I mean, this feels like something that, it feels like a Vinegar Syndrome release. Like somebody's going to go hold of it. I don't know if Pan Andreas is like tough to work with, because I read some things on, he's still making, like this was his only movie, and then he made another movie in like 2017 or something.
The Matadors. It's 2 hours.
With Eric Roberts, I think. I think he's making a new movie with Eric Roberts in it.
Eric Roberts is the CIA director, as he should be, when he's not being a doctor.
But the ending is, so the whole movie, he's very serious. This is an action, it's overacting. Feels kind of almost like Miami Connection. Like it's just, he wants to stop the bad guys. And the ending is terrible because it is this weird attempt at humor for the first time. And while the whole time, like it wanted to be taken seriously. So just complete fail at the ending. But I do recommend this. I think it will get a release. I think if it gets a release, I think people will kind of lose their minds on it. It's really fun.
87. How is Robert Zadar not in this movie? That's what I want to know. This seems like I guess he had to put himself in it. Robert Zadar would have been the star.
Yeah, he kind of physically, he's kind of just a square jawed guy, but he has no charisma at all.
Oh, okay.
He overacts like, how can you kick me off the force? I do everything. It's my life to protect this city. It's just it's the best.
Amazing.
Okay. Your last free space.
Last free space. I watched Atlantis from 1990. This is in the Michael J. Murphy Indicator box set. He's a low budget British director. I've only watched 2 or 3 of his films from his set so far, or from this set so far. Actually, no. I watched a few of them. I watched Torment, a different, different Torment, Invitation to Hell, and Death Run. And I will say that he does quite a bit with very little, something that, we love about these types of films. They have ambition. But I think some of like the more character focused ones, like they struggle a little bit. Like the Torment one, I didn't really like very much. And like John and I, it took us, I think, 4 sittings to get through.
Oh, wow.
Because we were watching it at night before we were going to bed. And so I could literally get through 20 minutes and I was like, this is putting me to sleep because it's just talky. But this one is, so it's called Atlantis. It is about the city of, there's this underground Atlantis where this green asparagus looking king wants a woman's psychic power so that he can become all powerful. So they live below, but there's still people who live above ground. And like they get kidnapped to come down. But the asparagus guy is looking for like one specific person to steal the power from. There's some weird incest thing going on at the end that I was like super pumped about. I was like, fuck yeah. And there's a dead kid. He gets crushed by some crumbling rocks. The thing about this is like, I can barely tell you what it's about, but I can like point out certain things that happen in it. I didn't remember any character's name when the credits rolled, but I still enjoyed it. So like, I look back at that, I'm like, I enjoyed that movie. It wasn't like, it's forgettable, but enjoyable. I'll leave it at that because it doesn't really have it doesn't really have like a consistent thing that stands out to keep you engaged. It's one of those like timer movies where every now and then something pops up and you're like, oh shit. So at the end, I was very much engaged because I had a dead kid. I had like weird incest going on. And then like some demon spawn that was being like birthed from some other woman's. So again, he's doing quite a bit with very little, if anything. And so I think I probably gave it 3 stars, but it's one of those movies where you have to judge it on a scale of like really DIY low budget films. So.
Right.
All right. And the next category is Barbara Steele. And I watched Sapphire from 1959. This is on Tubi. Steele is literally in one scene in this movie and has 2 lines. So
that's like my Linnea Quigley Horror Gives Back movie.
Oh, yeah.
She literally was in it for like 52 seconds or something.
I mean, whatever. I got another grade out or one on Letterboxd for her on her filmography. So Sapphire was directed by Basil Dearden. This is the first of his films that I've seen, but I'm curious to watch more. There's a young woman who is murdered and her body is dumped in a park. The police begin investigating and the fiance looks pretty guilty. Then the woman's brother shows up and the police are surprised to find out that he is black. So apparently the woman, the dead woman, his sister was mixed race, but was so light-skinned that she was passing herself off as white for many reasons, including avoiding housing discrimination and school educate, all these other issues, obviously. So I didn't really read anything about it. I just was like, Barbara Steele that I haven't seen. Okay, Sapphire, I'll watch that. I didn't even read the synopsis before it, so I didn't even know this was going to be a thing. And I was surprised when her brother showed up. I was like, oh, he's black, and is she adopted? Is he adopted? What's going on? And then you find this out, and it turns into one of the cops is kind of a racist asshole, and the other one is very pragmatic and courteous and as a person should be, and
right.
Especially a cop. It's just lots of people showing their true colors throughout the investigation. So it's more of a social issue murder mystery. It gets a little bit convoluted when they start looking into some nightclub dancers, but overall I thought it was really enjoyable and I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. Sapphire 1959.
Yeah, this one sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, my Barbara Steele pick. Honeymoon with a Stranger. This was Amanda Ray's double feature pick with Our Fear No Evil.
I didn't know that Barbara Steele was in it.
Yeah, I had watch listed it when
she mentioned
mentions it, and then I started looking at Barbara Steele's, and I was like, oh, it's on my watch list. She's in that. Okay, I'll watch it. Yeah, this is an ABC TV movie of the week from 1969, starring Janet Leigh, Rossano Brazzi, and Barbara Steele. So Janet Leigh marries this wealthy Spanish businessman after 3 weeks of knowing him. And the night after they're married, he just disappears. She wakes up one night and he is completely gone. They had been celebrating. She was drinking all night, wakes up in the morning. He's not there. She goes to the police after a few days, asking what, I need help. They're obviously not helpful at all. And then about 30 minutes into the movie, a different man shows up as her husband, and he's trying to persuade the cops. She's trying to persuade the cops that he's not her husband, but he has all the paperwork, all the proof. It's kind of insinuating that the cops think okay, she's crazy, which is what the new husband is saying. Oh, you're quit playing with me, honey. Very strange twist. Then about 45 minutes in, Barbara Steele shows up, who is playing the husband's sister, the new husband, or the new husband's sister.
Okay.
She confirms that the new husband is to the cops that that is her husband. She's kind of playing with the new husband. But when the cops aren't around, the two of them, the new husband, his sister Barbara Steele, and their lawyer, played by Eric Braeden, who's Dr. Forbin in the Colossus, the Forbin Project.
Yeah.
He's great in it. He's completely no bullshit type of attitude. They confront Janet Leigh and they're like, hey, admit that he's her husband and we're going to pay you. And if you don't, and then you're going to leave town, you're going to be gone. And if you're not, we're going to work to commit you into an insane asylum. So, it becomes this, what the fuck? Great twist. Obviously, there's the one with her husband just disappearing, this guy showing up, and then another one pops up an hour later that I didn't see coming. I'm like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
There's so many wild twists on this. That's just a huge surprise. You won't see a lot of it coming. As much as I like the twist, I felt like the ending leaves a lot to be desired. I think it felt a little tacked on and lazy, a little rushed for sure. Still worth the watch, but yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers away because it is fun as things just start unraveling and you realize how all this happened. Barbara Steele's great in it. She doesn't show up till like over halfway in the film, but she's in it till the very end.
Okay.
Day 28 is Western. The Last Sunset from 1961. This was a last minute change as well. I was at the in-laws. I was getting in bed. They have Stars and their Stars Western channel.
Oh.
This was before the smart TV. This just happened to be starting. So I was like, fuck it. It's directed by Robert Aldrich.
Okay.
Aldrich. It's screenplays by Dalton Trumbo. Stars Kirk Douglas, Rock Hudson, Dorothy Malone, and Joseph Cotton. We all love the young, old Joseph Cotton. And Kirk Douglas, he plays like this outlaw on the run who heads back to his old fling's place to find that she's since been married to a, quote, old drunk, played by Joseph Cotton. He's probably like 20 years old in it. But he looks about 55.
Of course.
And Cotton doesn't know who he is, but he's doing a cattle drive and he's like, I need hands, will you help me?
Mm-hmm.
Man who used to sleep with my wife, but he doesn't know this. And Kirk Douglas is like, yeah, I'll accept. And then in comes Rock Hudson, who shows up, and he's the lawman that's been chasing Douglas. He wants to bring him back to Texas, so he can be tried and probably hanged. But they kind of team up when he learns that the cattle drive is heading to Texas. He decides to join on and help along with Douglas and Cotton. So they both make their way to Texas, and he's thinking in the back of his mind, as soon as we get to Texas, I'll be able to take him to justice. But then it starts turning into him falling in love with Douglas's old fling, and Douglas starts falling in love with his old fling's daughter. It's
Ew.
Too much drama, it's very gross. Yeah, and it's also nearly 2 hours.
Oh.
So I was like, again, as I said, I just crawled into my bed after a long day with hanging out with the in-laws all day. So I'm like, when is this going to end? I don't want to fall asleep because it's not streaming. I don't know. Yeah, no, it was fine. I think I gave it 3 stars. It's very like late 50s, early 60s Western. It's just a lot of like romantic drama. What was funny too is the characters kept bringing up, like when Rock Hudson was on the trail looking for Kirk Douglas, he would always describe him to other people as he's got a hole in his chin right here, with Kirk Douglas's big dimple in his chin. So he keeps calling it a hole in his chin.
Okay.
Starts off strong. The ending was very kind of overstayed. But it seems like a classic Western.
Okay. I got a classic too that I feel like I don't really have anything to say about because it's High Plains Drifter from 1973. I got it from the library. Clint Eastwood plays a shitbag who rolls into town. People want him to stay to protect him. He's given anything he wants for free. And obviously he's got his own motive for sticking around for the most part. And we find that out later. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. 4 stars. Great movie. I'm glad I finally watched it. But not really a Junesploitation movie. It fits the category, obviously. But I know we try to do like lesser seen stuff. But like after we had talked about it recently, I was like, I really need to finally watch that. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do that. And I don't need to spend time talking about it because everyone should watch it that hasn't seen it.
Yeah, this is what I need to rewatch. This was one actually I watched on Stars Western in San Angelo when I was visiting my in-laws. So I need to rewatch it in a different setting.
Getting a lot of mileage out of that channel.
I love their Stars Westerns. But yeah, sometimes I would throughout the day, I'd go scroll ahead the guide and be like, what's coming on at about 10 o'clock? Because that's probably when I'll get in bed.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, Sarah, let's get to bed. I don't know. It'll be different now that they have smart TV.
Yeah. All right. So then next category is New Horizons. And this is one I mentioned earlier, Blood Fist 2 from 1990. It's on Tubi and Prime. I have not seen Blood Fist 1, but here's how I decided. Blood Fist, the first one, is 86 minutes. This one's 84. So I picked this one.
Save you 2 minutes.
But also John had been reading up on Bloodsport knockoffs because he went down that rabbit hole too. And he read that this one was better anyway. And you didn't need to see the first one. So it was fine. So it stars Don the Dragon Wilson. He's Jake. It opens with a kickboxing match and he accidentally kills his opponent and vows never to fight again. A year later, his manager calls him from Manila, says he needs help. Jake goes out there in order to help him, But then Jake becomes captured along with a handful of other martial arts champions, like the ones I mentioned that are in their credits or in the credits on their names. So they're all taken to this island and they're forced to battle these roided out killers in fights to the death. So, but it takes way too long to get to that point. Like that's not even for like, I don't know. It's like an hour in before it finally gets to the fights. And I'm like, you got a lot of fights here to get to. Like, how is this? Here's the thing too, is I'm going to read you the letterboxd. I know we're getting on in time here. So I'm going to try to okay. Jake is finally captured and chained to a half dozen martial arts champions. Taken to an island fortress, they are forced to battle chemically stimulated killers in the fight to the death. Blah, blah, blah. So in my head, I was like, okay, so Don the Dragon is chained up with all of these other fighters that were in the credits, and they're going to have to like work together all chained up against like one after the other, all of these like roided out killers, right? Because they're all different types of like, there's one karate, there's one jujitsu, there's one this and that, boxing, whatever.
Right.
And so like, they're going to take turns because like, oh, well, this guy is best suited to fight this guy and whatever. No, the chains, who fucking cares? Like, yeah, they chain them up on the boat, but then they get to the boat and they're like, here, we're going to throw you in the fucking match and the rich people vote on who's going to fight and whatever. I'm like, why would you say that? I had a whole other movie in my mind that would have been so much better than Blood Fist 2. Like, fucking movie. Who wrote that? How dare you? You got my hopes up for like a bunch of men being chain ganged and like fighting fucking people at different levels. Come on.
Yeah, your movie sounds amazing.
I know.
Betrayed by his best friend, the dragon is taken to a secret island for a battle of champions. Don Wilson consistently delivers knockout action. Official Karate magazine. Twice the action, twice the adventure, and 11 on the 10 scale. Century Cable Network. Rarely is a sequel more powerful than the original. Blood Fist 2 is a knockout. Inside Karate Magazine. Blood Fist 2, the knockout movie of the 90s.
Anyway, there's okay, so I was mad at the letterbox description. It took way too long to get to the fights. There's the villain in this. He answers the phone at one point, and you know when Dave Chappelle did his like Rick James, and it would be like, what?
Yeah.
Like that. It sounds just like that. Also, this movie's Bolo Young has a sick mullet. It's not Bolo, but it's their Bolo. But he's got a great mullet. If you go in knowing that not everyone is chained up to each other and has to fight, and you know that the fights are going to take a while to get to, it's fine. But like my expectations were not met, and I was very mad at the movie, and so I did not care for it.
I mean, maybe what you had envisioned is in the 8 other Blood Fist movies.
I don't know if I'm going to take the time to find out.
There's
John,
9 of these.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's quite a bit. And you know what? In the trailer for this, it talks about like Don the Dragon Wilson, blah blah blah. And I don't expect any of these like great martial artists to be great actors by any means, but he has zero charisma. Like he is so boring to watch and to listen to.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I mean, Michael Dudikoff. Like, he's.
Oh my god! If you put the two of them together in a movie, I would die.
They just fucking mope around for an hour and a half, and whoever last standing wins the fight.
We're gonna have a mope off. I wish we had video right now. Ouch. What about you?
Okay, New Horizon. Oh, I got my last 2. The Fantastic Four from 1994, Roger Corman production.
Oh, you've never seen this before?
I've never seen this before.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah, it's, the never released superhero film.
Right.
Yeah, first off, it has a great opening with the galaxies and the planets and stars and like very dramatic music. I'm not going to lie. The opening credits sold me. It felt like an 80s superhero movie. Like I got like Superman 2 vibes. I was feeling it.
Hell yeah.
And then, like 2 minutes later, it's like kicked off. Like the music actually got so weird immediately. And I was like, it took apparently musical cues are stolen from Battle Beyond the Stars. At least the trailer used the music.
Okay.
The whole music was just alien, didn't fit in. My notes were all over the place. This was the first movie I watched, I think, for Junesploitation, actually. I literally yelled, I think about 20 minutes in, like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, what the fuck is this movie? With a big smile on my face, I have to say, because I do love how simple it all is, because the problem with Marvel films now, which, you know, I do enjoy a lot of them, but they get so convoluted and they like intentionally make the plot, which usually like results in directors and some of the filmmakers to step away from the project, which ruins the movies. But they just make them so convoluted and just, you know, they want to turn them into like 3 movies at once. The Fantastic Four is like, hey, let's have a diamond thief to take a diamond and replace it with a fake one, which sabotages their mission and explodes and it gives them their powers. Like, that's cool. That's fun. That's very comic booky. And apparently I didn't read a lot of Fantastic Four comics as a kid. I read other superheroes, but I had read that this sticks true to a lot of the origin of the Fantastic Four and a lot of the, like the Diamond Thief. I think he had a name. I forgot what it was.
Okay.
But I actually enjoyed this. Like I've seen some of the newer Fantastic Four movies that have been made the last 20 years or whatever. And this is way better, way more entertaining. I thought the Thing looked great. I thought he looked like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle from, you know, like the 90s.
Yeah.
He's played by Michael Bailey Smith, who played that muscular Super Freddy from The Dream Child and Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yeah.
Same actor. Little fun fact. And then we have the thing that kind of sucks. It's Dr. Doom. And this is played by Robert Culp's son, Joseph Culp. Doesn't show his penis. And I think he looks cool. I think it's the best Doom physical rendition that I've seen. Mm-hmm. But the mask muffles his voice. So when he talks, it literally sounds like this. And immediately after watching this, I watched the Doomed documentary.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, he was very passionate about this. Like I recommend, you know, if you haven't watched Doomed, but you have seen this, you need to watch that documentary because it breaks down everything perfectly and how into this role Joseph Culp was and the whole cast. They did a bunch of like meet and greets and stuff. But he's like, yeah, I was supposed to go back and, voice over all my work, but it just never happened.
Right.
But yeah, this is the set that is recycled from Carnosaur that I learned from Doomed.
Okay.
But I loved it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I'd recommend it. Definitely a high rating just because I enjoyed it. And it was early in the month. Yeah, it kind of perfectly set my expectations. And then the last one is slashers. So I went and saw In a Violent Nature at the theater by myself.
Why'd you do that?
I don't know. I wanted a new take. Everybody's like, it's a new slasher take. I didn't like it as much as a lot of people seem to.
Okay.
A lot of the followers on Letterboxd. I didn't want that to be my pick. So I went with the British proto-slasher from 1971, which has been on my watch list again for a long time. Fright, starring Susan George.
Yeah.
Directed by Peter Collinson. But George stars as a young babysitter, and she's dealing with a madman who breaks into the house while she's babysitting one night. The parents they're out, and we learn that the woman's husband was previously institutionalized due to trying to murder her. So you kind of quickly guess who the killer is.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing's like beautifully shot. In the very beginning, in the opening, like during the credits, it has Susan George walking to the house, to babysit. And it's like this eerie music's playing. It's kind of foggy. All the leaves are off the tree. And it has this original song called Lady Bird, sung by a singer who sounded a little bit like Daniel Johnston to me, which I think it was a woman singing. But the movie feels very Halloween, like October vibes because of the weather. Even at night, George is watching like a zombie movie, an old black and white movie. So It just feels like something you'd watch during October. And there's creepy moments. There's scenes where like just a man's face is in the background because he's in the house.
Yeah. And
you see it. Susan George, kind of sees it at the corner of her eye. And same with the viewer. You kind of see it and then then it's gone. It's like, it's super creepy. That always kind of creeps me out. But the guy playing the nutty ex-husband is fantastic. He can't tell the difference between reality and like these visions he's having. But yeah, this was probably one of my favorites of the month.
Now the screen has a new definition of terror.
Is there anything I ought to know, Mrs. Lloyd?
No. Mrs. Lloyd's real husband's in a nut house.
Oh, she's a sensible girl. She won't be frightened.
fright. An experience ripped out of a nightmare.
I love Susan George.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's gorgeous. I love her and Sonny and Jed, the Corbucci.
Yeah.
So good. And that's it. That's my Junesploitation. Let's hear your last.
I'm going out with a little bit of a whimper here, unfortunately. I watched The Majorettes from 1986. This is on Tubi. This is one that I passed a million times in the video store, and I just never picked it up. And turns out I wasn't really missing much. It's directed by Bill Hinsman, zombie from Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. Written by John Russo, another Night of the Living Dead alum. So, like I said, I passed this in the video store, but I might have picked this up if the VHS cover was from the title card in this movie, because it's like a skeleton with a wig, and it's it's cute. I might have picked it up, but anyway, it's not that. There's a killer killing majorettes, but it does check some boxes for a high school slasher. It's got a creepy janitor. Got boobies in the locker room. It's got a dark room scene for you. Nice. The kills are really basic. The killer is just slashing necks, and that's pretty much it. And then he puts them in the water to cleanse them, or one dies in a pool, so she's already in the water. It doesn't follow the standard slasher formula. The killer's revealed about an hour in, and then it just gets really messy from there. But it is trying to do something different. I'll give it points for that, but yeah, all I wanted was, you have this killer's motivation. You can go with that. And, he's mad about these girls being sexualized or whatever. And that's what he thinks the majorettes are. And he's like, they need to be cleansed of their sin. It's like, well, fine, then stick with that. The fact that we have the reveal so early and then it turns into this whole bribery, other bullshit going on. I'm like, what is this movie? It's messy. Not one of my favorites of the month. What were my favorites of the month, since we're closing out here, that would be, High Plains Drifter goes without saying, but Thunder Road for sure, Dillinger, kittens are meowing, where'd it go? Hickey and Boggs and Cisco Pike. Those hands down were my absolute favorites of the month.
Yeah, I'd probably go for my list, Trouble Man, Buddies, Occult is My Passport, and Fright. But yeah, Fantastic Four is so good. It was a great month for me. The only one and I rarely say stay away from a movie, but Armed Response with
Wesley can't stay away from it because it's got dead kids. So
it's got two.
Yeah, great.
You need to watch it twice.
No, I don't.
Those the rules.
Yeah, The Killing Device, my 2000s actions movie. I can't recommend. There's no way I could recommend that to anybody, but. Everything else is just kind of there, but those few that I mentioned, definitely worth seeking out. Whew, all right, that was long.
Yeah.
Next episode, we've got Craig and Dennis from Deaf Crocodile will be joining us to talk about their latest release, The Savage Hunt of King Stock. That is on sale right now at Diabolic DVD. You can pick it up, or you can just wait to listen to our episode and hear why you should watch it or pick it up if you can. Thanks to everyone in our Discord for sharing your picks daily. You guys were much better about sharing every single day than both Lance and I were. I will admit that. I got kind of off track quite a bit.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done it daily, but every year we do. I think everybody knows my in-laws at this point. Every year we go in June, and I always I kind of plan my Junesploitation, so I kind of cram movies when I can. But yeah, I think I've said it before, but one of my favorite things, if not the favorite thing of Junesploitation, is just seeing people post what they watch, people on our Discord.
I love seeing everyone's lists at the beginning of the month, and then people like us who are I changed it a little bit, I swapped it out because and I get it. So thanks to everyone who participated. We're tired, so we're gonna call it there. You guys know where to follow us. We're on all the things.
I'm at El Schibi.
All right, fine. X Massacre, Unsung Horrors, on all the things. So thanks everyone for sticking through this long episode, and we'll see you back next episode with Craig and Dennis from Deaf Crocodile. Bye.
Bye.
See him wasted on the sidewalks in his jacket and his jeans, wearing yesterday's misfortunes like a smile. Once he had a future full of money, love, and dreams, which he spent like they was going out of style. And he keeps right on a-changing, for the better or the worse, searching for a shrine he's never found, never knowing if believing is a blessing or a curse, or if the going up was worth the coming down. He's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher and a problem when he's stoned. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction, taking ever wrong direction on his lonely way back home. He has tasted good and evil in your bedrooms and your bars, and he's traded in tomorrow for today, running from his devil's lord and reaching for the stars, and losing all he loved along the way. But if this world keeps right on turning, for the better or the worse, and all he ever gets is older and around, from the rocking of the cradle to the rolling of the hearse, the going up was worth the coming down. He's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher and a problem when he is stoned. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction, taking ever wrong direction on his lonely way back home. He's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher and a problem when he is stoned. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction, taking ever wrong direction on his lonely way back home.
I am Adam Lundy, co-host of They Live by Film, a podcast dedicated to bringing you film discussion and interviews from around the world. Every week, my co-hosts Chris Haskell, Zach Bryant and I discuss a wide range of films, from monumental classics like Vertigo and The Rules of the Game, to the craziest, schlockiest movies ever made like Deathbed and everything in between. We are also lucky enough to have sat down with some of the biggest players in the boutique Blu-ray and film restoration game. If this is your thing, then come hang out with us every Thursday at 7 PM Eastern, wherever you normally stream your podcasts, and now as part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.